My friends, tonight, I want to speak to you about something that has gripped the imagination of millions. Something that sends shivers down spines and fills hearts with an inexplicable dread. I want to speak to you about Friday the 13th. But before you dismiss this as mere superstition, before you wave your hand and say, Neville, surely you don't believe in such nonsense, I ask you to listen. Listen with that inner ear that hears not just words, but truth. For in understanding Friday the 13th, we unlock one of the most profound secrets of human consciousness, the secret of how beliefs become reality. You see, my friends, there is no such thing as a coincidence in this universe. Every date, every number, every symbol that captures the collective imagination of humanity does so because it contains within it a spiritual truth, a truth that speaks to the very core of our being. Tonight I will show you that Friday the 13th is not a day to be feared, but a day to be understood. It is a day that reveals the magnificent power of your own wonderful human imagination. But first, let me tell you a story, a true story that happened to me just last Friday the 13th. I was walking down Fifth Avenue in New York City. The streets were less crowded than usual, and I noticed something peculiar. People were walking differently. They were looking over their shoulders. They were avoiding ladders, stepping around black cats, and I could feel it, that thick, heavy atmosphere of collective fear. And then it struck me like lightning. I was witnessing the most powerful demonstration of human imagination at work. Here were thousands of people, all unknowingly participating in a massive exercise of creative visualization. They were imagining misfortune, visualizing bad luck, and feeling it so intensely that they were literally creating the very conditions they feared. My friends, this is the law. This is exactly how your imagination works every single day. What you persistently imagine, what you feel to be true, what you accept as real, this becomes your experience. Friday, the 13th, is simply humanity's greatest collective lesson in the power of assumption. But where did this all begin? Let me take you back to the true origins of this mystical date. The number 13 has been considered sacred since the dawn of civilization. There were 13 lunar cycles in a year. There were 13 members at the Last Supper. There are 13 stairs leading to the gallows. But here's what they don't tell you in the history books. 13 is the number of transformation, the number of death and rebirth, the number of the initiate who has passed through the 12 stages of spiritual development and emerged as the 13th, the master. And Friday was the day of Venus, the day of love and creativity, the day when the feminine principle was honored. It was considered the most powerful day for manifestation, because it was the day when the creative force of the universe was at its peak. So when we combine Friday with the 13th, we don't get a day of misfortune, we get the most powerful day for conscious creation. We get the day when the creative force of the universe aligns with the number of mastery and transformation. But here's the tragedy, my friends. Somewhere along the way, humanity forgot this truth. The knowledge became distorted. The sacred became feared. And instead of using this powerful day for conscious creation, we began to use it for unconscious creation, creating exactly what we feared. Now let me share with you the real secret of Friday the 13th. A secret that will transform your entire relationship with this date, and, more importantly, with your own creative power. Every Friday the 13th, you are being given a gift. You are being given a day when the collective unconscious of humanity is so focused, so concentrated, that the very atmosphere becomes charged with creative energy. It's like having access to a cosmic amplifier for your imagination. But you must know how to use it. You must understand that on this day, more than any other, your assumptions will crystallize into reality with lightning speed. This is why those who assume bad luck experience it so dramatically. This is why those who fear misfortune attract it so powerfully. The day is not cursed. The day is blessed with an abundance of creative power. Let me tell you about a man I knew who discovered this truth. His name was Robert, and he was a businessman who had always dreaded Friday the 13th. Every time this date appeared on the calendar, something would go wrong. His deals would fall through, his equipment would break down, his employees would call in sick. One day, Robert came to me and said, "Neville, I don't know what to do. Friday the 13th is like a curse on my life." I said to him, "Robert, you have discovered the most powerful day for manifestation, and you're using it to create exactly what you don't want. What if, instead of fearing this day, you used it to consciously create what you do want?" Robert looked at me as if I had suggested he jump off the Brooklyn Bridge. But I continued, "The next Friday the 13th, I want you to do something different. I want you to spend the entire day in the feeling of your wish fulfilled. I want you to imagine your business thriving, your deals closing, your success flowing like a river. Feel it, live it, breathe it." "But Neville," he protested, "what if something goes wrong?" I smiled and said, "Robert, something has been going wrong every Friday the 13th for years. You've been unconsciously creating disasters. What if you consciously created miracles instead?" 3 months later, Robert called me. His voice was shaking with excitement. "Neville," he said, "you won't believe what happened. That Friday the 13th, I did exactly what you suggested. I spent the entire day feeling successful, feeling blessed, feeling grateful for all the good in my life. And by the end of the day, I had closed the biggest deal of my career. The client called me at 11:47 p.m., 13 minutes before midnight, and said yes to everything." My friends, this is not a coincidence. This is the law in operation. Robert had discovered that Friday the 13th was not his enemy. It was his greatest ally. It was the day when his imagination was supercharged, when his creative power was amplified beyond measure. But here's what I want you to understand. Every day is Friday the 13th for the person who knows how to use their imagination consciously. Every moment is charged with creative potential. Every assumption you make is an act of creation. The reason Friday the 13th has such power is because it reveals the truth that most people ignore. Your imagination is always working. Your assumptions are always creating. Your beliefs are always manifesting. Friday the 13th simply makes this process visible, because the collective focus amplifies the results. Now let me share with you the practical application of this knowledge. Let me show you how to use Friday the 13th and every day to consciously create the life you desire. First, you must understand that fear is just imagination focused on what you don't want. When you fear Friday the 13th, you are actually doing a very sophisticated form of creative visualization. You are imagining scenarios of misfortune, feeling the emotions of these scenarios, and thereby impressing your subconscious mind with the image of what you don't want. But imagination is neutral. It will create whatever you consistently imagine and feel to be true. So instead of imagining what you don't want, imagine what you do want. Instead of feeling afraid, feel grateful. Instead of expecting misfortune, expect miracles. Here's a specific technique I want you to use. The next time Friday the 13th appears on your calendar, I want you to treat it as your personal day of manifestation. I want you to wake up that morning and say to yourself, "Today is my day of miracles. Today my imagination is supercharged. Today I consciously create my reality." Then throughout the day, I want you to imagine yourself living in the reality you desire. If you want love, feel loved. If you want success, feel successful. If you want health, feel healthy. If you want abundance, feel abundant. Don't just think these thoughts. Feel these feelings. Live in these assumptions. Breathe in these realities. And here's the key. Don't watch for results. Don't look for signs. Don't anxiously check to see if it's working. Simply assume it is working. Assume your desires are already fulfilled. Assume you are already living in the reality you've imagined. Because, my friends, assumption is the most powerful force in the universe. When you assume something to be true, when you feel it to be real, when you live from that assumption, the entire universe conspires to make it so. This is why Friday the 13th is so powerful. It's a day when the collective unconscious is so focused that assumptions crystallize into reality almost immediately. It's like having a direct line to the creative power of the universe. But let me share with you an even deeper secret. The real reason Friday the 13th has such power is because it represents the ultimate spiritual truth: death and rebirth, transformation and renewal, the ending of one cycle and the beginning of another. Every Friday the 13th, you are being invited to die to your old self and be reborn as your new self. You are being invited to let go of your old assumptions and embrace new ones. You are being invited to step into a new version of reality. This is why the number 13 has always been associated with death in the tarot. Not physical death, but the death of the old self. And this is why Friday, the day of Venus, is the perfect day for this transformation. Because Venus represents the creative feminine principle that gives birth to new realities. So Friday the 13th is not a day of misfortune, it's a day of rebirth. It's a day when you can consciously choose to die to your old limitations and be reborn into your new possibilities. Think about it, my friends. What if every Friday, the 13th, instead of cowering in fear, you stood up and declared, "Today, I die to my old self and am reborn as the person I truly want to be"? What if you used this day to consciously assume a new identity, to step into a new version of yourself, to embrace a new reality? The transformation would be immediate. The results would be miraculous, because you would be working with the natural rhythm of the universe instead of against it. I remember a woman who came to me many years ago. She was terrified of Friday the 13th, because every time this date occurred, she would have a panic attack. She had convinced herself that she was cursed, that some terrible fate awaited her on these days. I explained to her that she was not cursed. She was blessed with an incredible sensitivity to the creative power of the universe. Her panic attacks were actually her unconscious mind's way of preparing for transformation. She was being called to die to her old self and be reborn as her new self. I taught her to reframe her experience. Instead of seeing her heightened sensitivity as a curse, I helped her see it as a gift. Instead of fearing transformation, I helped her embrace it. Instead of resisting the death of her old self, I helped her welcome the birth of her new self. The next Friday the 13th, instead of having a panic attack, she had a breakthrough. She realized that her fear of this date was actually her fear of her own power. She was afraid of how quickly her imagination could create reality. She was afraid of how powerfully her assumptions could manifest. Once she understood this, she began to use Friday the 13th as her personal day of conscious creation. She would spend these days imagining herself as the confident, successful, joyful person she wanted to be. And slowly but surely, she became that person. My friends, this is the real magic of Friday the 13th. It's not about luck or superstition. It's about understanding the incredible power of your own imagination and using it consciously to create the life you desire. Every Friday the 13th, you are being given a gift, a day when the veil between imagination and reality is at its thinnest, when your assumptions can manifest with lightning speed, when your creative power is amplified beyond measure. But wait, my friends, there is more. There are deeper mysteries hidden within this date that will astound you. Let me share with you some remarkable discoveries that will forever change how you see Friday the 13th. Did you know that Jesus Christ was crucified on a Friday and that he was the 13th person at the Last Supper? This was not coincidence. This was cosmic design. The crucifixion represents the ultimate act of conscious transformation. Jesus consciously chose to die to his human limitations and be reborn as divine consciousness. Friday the 13th is the anniversary of the greatest demonstration of conscious creation in human history. And here's something that will absolutely fascinate you. In the ancient mystery schools, the number 13 was the number of the master. There were 12 disciples and one master. There are 12 signs of the zodiac, and the 13th is the one who transcends them all. There are 12 hours on the clock, and the 13th hour is when time itself is transcended. The Templars knew this secret. They met in groups of 13 because they understood that 13 was the number of divine power. When they were arrested on Friday, October 13th, 1307, it wasn't because the date was unlucky. It was because the church feared their knowledge of how to consciously create reality. But here's what will truly amaze you. Modern science has discovered that the human body replaces every cell every 13 weeks. Every 13 weeks, you literally have a new body. Every 13 weeks, you are physically reborn. Your body knows the secret of Friday the 13th. It knows that 13 is the number of renewal and transformation. And in the field of quantum physics, scientists have discovered that there are 13 dimensions of reality. We live in the first 3 dimensions, but there are 10 more dimensions where infinite possibilities exist. Friday the 13th is the day when the veil between these dimensions is thinnest, when you can most easily access these higher realms of possibility. Let me tell you about a woman named Sarah who discovered this truth in the most remarkable way. Sarah was an artist who had been struggling for years to make a living from her work. Every Friday the 13th, she would receive rejection letters, her paintings would be damaged, or her exhibitions would be cancelled. But Sarah was different from most people. Instead of accepting defeat, she became curious. She began to notice that the intensity of her experiences on Friday the 13th was far greater than on any other day. Her rejections weren't just rejections. They were dramatic, story-worthy rejections. Her setbacks weren't just setbacks. They were spectacular, almost cinematic setbacks. Then it hit her like a lightning bolt. If her negative experiences were amplified on Friday the 13th, what would happen if she amplified her positive experiences instead? The next Friday the 13th, Sarah did something extraordinary. She spent the entire day painting a masterpiece. Not just any painting, but a painting of her ideal life. She painted herself in a beautiful studio, surrounded by collectors admiring her work. She painted herself receiving a check for $1 million. She painted herself being interviewed by art magazines. But here's the key. As she painted, she didn't just hope these things would happen. She felt them happening. She felt the excitement of the collectors, the weight of the check in her hand, the pride of being recognized for her talent. That very evening, as she was putting the finishing touches on her painting, there was a knock at her door. It was a wealthy collector who had gotten lost looking for another artist's studio. He saw Sarah's painting through the window and was mesmerized. Not only did he buy that painting, but he commissioned her to create a series of 13 paintings for his private collection. The commission was worth exactly $1 million. My friends, this is not a fairy tale. This is the law of assumption in its most dramatic form. Sarah had unconsciously discovered that Friday the 13th was her personal amplifier. Whatever she assumed on this day would manifest with extraordinary speed and intensity. Now let me address something that many of you might be thinking. But Neville, what if I've had bad experiences on Friday the 13th? What if I've been unconsciously creating negative experiences for years? My friends, this is actually wonderful news. If you've been able to create dramatic negative experiences on Friday the 13th, it proves that you have incredible creative power. It proves that your imagination is extraordinarily potent. It proves that you are naturally sensitive to the amplified energy of this day. All you need to do is redirect that power. All you need to do is change the direction of your assumption. All you need to do is use the same creative force that has been working against you to work for you. Remember, there is no such thing as a bad manifester. There are only people who are unconsciously manifesting what they don't want, instead of consciously manifesting what they do want. If you can manifest dramatically on Friday the 13th, even if what you've manifested is unwanted, you have a gift that most people would envy. Let me tell you about a man named Thomas, who came to me after experiencing 20 years of disasters on Friday the 13th. Car accidents, job losses, relationship breakups, financial catastrophes. They all seem to happen on this date. I said to him, Thomas, you are one of the most powerful manifestors I have ever met. You have been unconsciously using Friday the 13th as your personal creation day for 2 decades. The consistency of your results proves that you have an extraordinary connection to the creative force of the universe. Thomas looked at me as if I had lost my mind. How can you call disasters a gift? He asked. I explained to him that the same creative force that had been producing his disasters could produce his miracles. The same imagination that had been creating his problems could create his solutions. The same assumptive power that had been working against him could work for him. The very next Friday the 13th, Thomas consciously assumed that it would be the most wonderful day of his life. He assumed that everything would go perfectly, that opportunities would present themselves, that blessings would flow to him from every direction. By the end of that day, Thomas had received a job offer that doubled his salary, met the woman who would become his wife, and found out that he had inherited a house from a distant relative he didn't even know existed. The same creative power that had been producing disasters for 20 years produced miracles in a single day. This brings me to a profound truth about Friday the 13th that I want you to understand. This date is not inherently good or bad, lucky or unlucky, blessed or cursed. It is simply a day of amplified creative power. It is a day when the consequences of your assumptions are accelerated and intensified. If you assume good, you get extraordinary good. If you assume bad, you get extraordinary bad. If you assume nothing special, you get extraordinary ordinary. The day responds to your assumption with supernatural precision. This is why I say that Friday the 13th is humanity's greatest teacher. It is showing us, in the most dramatic way possible, that we are always creating our reality through our assumptions. It is proving to us that there is no such thing as fate, no such thing as luck, no such thing as circumstance beyond our control. We are always at choice. We are always creating. We are always assuming our reality into existence. Friday the 13th simply makes this truth impossible to ignore. And now, my friends, let me share with you the ultimate secret of Friday the 13th. A secret so profound that it will change your entire understanding of reality itself. The real reason Friday the 13th has such power is because it represents the 13th hour, the hour that doesn't exist on the clock, the hour that exists only in consciousness, the hour when linear time dissolves and eternal time begins. In the 13th hour, past, present, and future become one. In the 13th hour, all possibilities exist simultaneously. In the 13th hour, you are not bound by the limitations of sequential time. You can reach into the future and pull your desires into the present moment. Every Friday the 13th, you are being invited to enter the 13th hour of consciousness. You are being invited to step outside of linear time and into eternal time. You are being invited to live not from the perspective of someone who is trying to create something, but from the perspective of someone who has already created it. This is the secret of instant manifestation. This is how miracles happen. This is how the impossible becomes possible. In the 13th hour, there is no waiting for your good. In the 13th hour, there is no process of manifestation. There is only the eternal now, where all your desires already exist in perfect form. When you truly understand this, when you can truly enter the 13th hour of consciousness, Friday the 13th becomes the most magical day of your life. It becomes the day when you remember who you really are. Not a limited human being, trying to create a better life, but an unlimited spiritual being experiencing the joy of conscious creation. So I leave you with this challenge, my friends, this coming Friday the 13th. Dare to enter the 13th hour. Dare to step outside of time and into eternity. Dare to live from the assumption you are already everything you desire to be. Use it wisely. Use it consciously. Use it to create the life you were born to live. Because that, my friends, is the real meaning of Friday the 13th. Not a day of fear, but a day of power. Not a day of misfortune, but a day of miracles. Not a day to be endured, but a day to be embraced as the doorway to your highest possibilities. Go now and create consciously. Assume your good and live from your wish fulfilled, for you are the operant power of God. And Friday the 13th is simply another opportunity to prove it. Perhaps the most powerful opportunity of all. Remember, you are not here to be ordinary. You are here to be extraordinary. And Friday the 13th is your invitation to step into that extraordinary life.
There is a power moving through you, unseen yet certain, waiting only for your recognition. To trust the universe is not to beg, nor to anxiously seek signs. but to rest in the quiet, knowing that all things are unfolding according to your inner state of being. When you imagine with feeling, you plant a seed in the unseen. Just as no farmer pulls at the soil to hurry the harvest, you too must allow time, space, and silence for the universe to bring forth your desire. Relaxation is not laziness, it is the highest form of confidence. It is the calm assurance that what you have already claimed within will soon reveal itself without. Do not look to circumstances for proof, for they only mirror the past state of mind. Instead, live from the end. Close your eyes and enter into the reality of your fulfilled desire. Feel it real. Walk in it inwardly, as though it is already yours, and the outer world will bend to match it. Fear, doubt, and restlessness belong to those who believe the outer world holds the power. But when you understand that all things come from within, you no longer struggle with appearances. You can look at conditions that seem unchanged and smile, for you know the unseen is already shaping them into form. Trusting the universe is like floating on water. The moment you stop struggling, you are carried effortlessly. The moment you stop interfering with worry and control, your life begins to flow. Your only duty is to accept within yourself the truth of your desire. The rest is not your work. So relax, be still, rest in faith. Know that what you have inwardly accepted must outwardly appear. The universe is not against you, it is within you, working faithfully to reflect your every assumption. And when you trust this truth, peace becomes natural, and life unfolds as it should, perfectly, inevitably, and beautifully. Imagination is not a fleeting daydream or a mere play of the mind. It is the very foundation upon which reality is built. Everything you see around you, every object, every invention, every work of art, began first as a vision in someone's imagination. What you hold within, whether through images, feelings, or inner conversations, is the seed of the world you will experience. To understand this truth is to unlock the secret of creation itself. When you imagine something vividly and clothe it with feeling, you are impressing it upon the deeper levels of your being. This impression is like a seed planted in fertile soil. The soil does not question the seed, nor does it resist. It simply brings forth after its kind. Likewise, the creative power within you does not ask whether your thought is small or great, possible or impossible. It simply responds to what you impress upon it. This is why imagination is the key to shaping your destiny. Relaxation plays a vital role in this process. When you are tense, anxious, or restless, your energy is scattered. You try to control circumstances, force outcomes, and wrestle with appearances. But this very struggle is a sign that you do not yet trust the unseen power that is already at work. To relax is to surrender, not in weakness, but in supreme confidence. It is knowing that once you have imagined and accepted something within, its outer expression is inevitable. Think of a farmer planting seeds. He does not sit by the field anxiously wondering if the soil will do its job. He does not dig up the seed every day to see if it has sprouted. Instead, he plants with faith and rests in certainty because he understands the laws of nature. Your imagination works in the same way. Once you impress the seed of desire upon your inner world, your task is to rest, to allow, to trust. When you close your eyes and imagine, Do not see it as a distant hope. Feel it as though it were already real. Live from the end in your imagination. Walk in the scene. Breathe its air and feel the joy of fulfillment. The more vivid and natural this becomes, the stronger the seed is planted. And just as surely as morning follows night, that inner vision must one day appear in the outer world. The reason many fail is not because the law does not work, but because they abandon the process too soon. They allow doubt, fear, and impatience to uproot the seed. They look for quick signs in the outer world instead of resting in faith. True mastery comes when you realize that the unseen is more real than what the senses show. What you accept inwardly with conviction will eventually harden into fact. Imagination creates reality, and relaxation is the proof of your faith in this principle. When you can rest in the certainty of your inner vision, you align yourself with the creative power that governs all things. You no longer struggle against life because you know life is only reflecting what you have already planted within. This quiet trust, this surrender, is the doorway to manifestation. It is the art of allowing the unseen to become seen and the invisible to take form before your very eyes. To live from the end is to enter into the state of the wish fulfilled and dwell there as if it were already your present reality. It is not about hoping, waiting, or begging for a future outcome, but about assuming now that the desire is already accomplished. This principle is not about pretending or forcing the mind to believe something against its will. It is about shifting your inner position, your sense of being, to one that is aligned with fulfillment. The moment you feel the reality of your desire, you stop striving anxiously because there is nothing left to strive for. The end is already secured within you. Most people live from a state of lack. They desire something, but they continue to see themselves as the one who does not yet have it. They pray from the problem instead of the solution, imagining the gap rather than the completion. To live from the end requires a radical shift, to claim inwardly what you seek outwardly, and to rest in the certainty that life must mirror this state. It is not your outer circumstances that create your inner condition, but your inner condition that shapes your outer circumstances. Consider how you feel when something is truly done in your life. Think of a time when you accomplished a goal, received good news, or crossed a milestone. There was no anxiety, no restless striving. You simply felt the relief and satisfaction of completion. To live from the end is to generate that same feeling now before the evidence arrives. It is a deliberate choice to embody the mood of fulfillment, knowing that what is real within will soon become real without. This is why relaxation and living from the end are deeply connected. An anxious mind is always looking to the future, wondering when or how. But when you step into the end, those questions dissolve. You know the harvest is certain. You walk with calm assurance, because within yourself you have already claimed it. The outer world may still reflect delay or contradiction, but you no longer react with fear. Instead, you rest, because you know appearances are temporary shadows that must give way to the reality you hold within. Living from the end does not mean forcing yourself to deny what your senses show. It means acknowledging that the senses reveal only a past state, not the living truth of your being. If you are broke and desire wealth, the senses will show lack. But living from the end means you assume the inner wealth, the feeling of abundance, until it becomes natural. If you long for love, the senses may show loneliness, but living from the end means you assume yourself already cherished, already chosen, already fulfilled. The world cannot resist such inner certainty. It must eventually rearrange itself to match the state you persist in. The art of life is to train yourself to return again and again to the end, until it feels more real than the present circumstances. Once you can hold the feeling of the wish fulfilled without strain, you have aligned yourself with the creative law. Relaxation follows naturally, for there is nothing left to chase. You know it is done. The unseen has already accepted your assumption, and the outer world is on its way to reflect it. To live from the end is to claim your power, rest in it, and allow life to reveal what you have already accepted within. The world around you is filled with noise, opinions, doubts, fears, statistics, and appearances that constantly try to convince you of what is possible and what is not. From the moment you wake up, you are bombarded with voices that tell you to be realistic, to lower your expectations, to accept limitations. This outer noise becomes so loud that you begin to mistake it for truth. But the truth is never found in the clamor of the world. It is discovered only in the silence within. To create deliberately, you must learn to withdraw from the noise of doubt and fear and listen instead to the quiet conviction of your own inner voice. Every time you look at circumstances and allow them to dictate your mood, you are giving power to the outer noise. When the world says it cannot be done, you feel discouraged. When appearances show lack or delay, you begin to wonder if your desire will ever manifest. But all of this is illusion. The outer world is nothing more than the echo of your past inner states. To allow it to control you is like looking in a mirror and expecting the reflection to change before you do. The mirror can only follow, it can never lead. Silencing the outer noise is an act of inner mastery. It is not about shutting your ears to the world physically, but about training yourself to no longer give authority to fear or doubt. It is about remembering that the true creative power lies within you, not outside. When you retreat inward and claim your desire as already real, you are standing in the place of creation itself. The conviction you feel in those quiet moments is stronger than 1,000 voices of contradiction. Consider how a seed grows in the darkness of the soil. It does not require the world's approval to sprout, it simply follows the law of life. Your imagination works the same way. Once you have planted your desire within and clothed it with feeling, it is already set in motion. The noise of the world may say otherwise, appearances may scream delay or impossibility, but if you can silence those outer voices and return again to the inner conviction, you will see the harvest in due time. True power comes from this inner stillness. It is not loud, not desperate, not anxious. It is calm, steady, and unshakable. When you know something within, no argument from without can move you. The doubters may laugh, circumstances may contradict, but you will stand firm because you have seen and felt the reality inwardly. This is the kind of faith that moves mountains, not by fighting the mountain, but by knowing within that it is already removed. The outer noise will never cease entirely. The world will always have something to say, but your task is not to silence the world. It is to silence its effect on you. When you choose the inner conviction over the outer appearance, you have chosen the only truth that matters. And in time, the noise will fade, and the world itself will adjust to reflect the quiet certainty you held within. In that stillness, you discover freedom. You realize that nothing outside of you has the power to shape your destiny. Only your inner conviction does. And when you remain faithful to it, the outer world has no choice but to obey. Faith is not a matter of struggle, effort, or constant pleading. It is not about trying to convince yourself through endless repetition or anxious striving. Faith in its purest form is rest. It is the quiet confidence that what you have inwardly accepted as true must inevitably show itself outwardly. To trust the universe is not to labor, but to relax into the assurance that all is already accomplished. The moment you truly believe, the strain ends, because you no longer feel the need to chase. You simply know. When a person lacks faith, their life becomes a cycle of chasing after outcomes, worrying about results, and attempting to control every detail of the path. They think their willpower or effort alone will bring their desire to pass, so they exhaust themselves trying to manipulate circumstances. But true faith requires no such strain. It is not about controlling the outer world. It is about accepting the inner reality. Once that acceptance is complete, rest follows naturally. Think of a traveler boarding a train. Once seated, he does not sit anxiously wondering if the train will reach its destination. He does not run alongside the track or attempt to push the carriage forward. He rests, because he knows the train is already carrying him where he intends to go. Faith operates in the same way. Once you have assumed the state of the wish fulfilled, you need not force or chase. The unseen power is already moving all things to bring your desire to fruition. Your task is only to remain calm, steady, and inwardly certain. Faith is rest because it shifts your sense of time. Without faith, you are always waiting for the future, hoping one day it will arrive. With faith, you live in the now, because within yourself it is already done. You stop asking when because you already feel now. You stop asking how because you know the how is not your concern. The outer world simply arranges itself according to the state you have accepted. The Vetex ceremony. You should choose to accept. This is why faith brings peace. It silences the restless mind that constantly questions and doubts. It ends the endless search for signs and assurances. Once you truly believe, you no longer need proof from the senses, because the inner conviction is stronger than appearances. Even if circumstances seem unchanged, faith allows you to rest in the knowledge that the change is already unfolding beneath the surface, like a seed sprouting before it breaks through the soil. The most powerful creations arise, not from frantic effort, but from quiet certainty. To be still, to rest in faith, is not weakness. It is the highest strength. It shows that you trust the laws of the universe so completely that you no longer need to interfere. You can live joyfully, peacefully, and freely because you know your desire is already secured. Faith is not something you do. It is something you become. It is a state of being, a calm assurance that allows you to move through life with grace, knowing that what you have accepted inwardly is as good as done. One of the greatest burdens people carry is the need to control how their desires will unfold. They imagine what they want, yet immediately the mind begins asking, how will this happen? Who will make it possible? When will it arrive? What if it doesn't work? This constant questioning creates tension, doubt, and resistance. But the truth is simple. The how is never your concern. Your only responsibility is to assume the state of the wish fulfilled, and to rest in that assumption. The universe has ways and channels far beyond your comprehension. When you insist on controlling the method, you limit what could have been infinite. Consider the seed once more. When planted in soil, the farmer does not worry about how the roots will form or how the plant will break through the earth. He does not stand over the ground day and night commanding the process to happen. He simply knows that growth is inevitable and allows nature to do its work. In the same way, once you impress your desire upon the inner world with conviction, the creative power already knows how to bring it forth. It draws circumstances, people, and events together in a harmony you could never design by effort alone. Letting go of control is not passivity, it is trust. It means you no longer interfere with doubt or desperation. You are not sitting idly by, but you are holding firm to the assumption that what you desire is already accomplished. This inner position is the only control you truly have, and it is more than enough. When you live in the state of fulfillment, the outer world must reflect it, for it has no choice but to mirror your inner condition. Those who obsess over the how often sabotage themselves. They imagine one specific path and cling so tightly that they miss the greater possibilities unfolding around them. Life may have been preparing a more direct or more beautiful way, but their fixation blinds them. The universe does not require your strategies, it only responds to your state. Your task is not to engineer the details, but to remain faithful to the vision within. Letting go also brings peace. The restless mind constantly demands proof, constantly tries to figure things out. But when you understand that the outer world is simply the shadow of the inner, you no longer struggle with appearances. You rest, knowing that once a seed is planted in consciousness, it is already complete. You do not need to demand or force. You simply need to trust, to remain inwardly aligned with the fulfillment you have chosen. The greatest manifestations often arrive in ways you least expect. What looks like chance, coincidence, or even an obstacle may be the very path through which your desire is delivered. When you let go of control, you allow this infinite intelligence to operate freely. You step back and let the current of life carry you to where you are meant to be. So release the need to control the how, the when, and the path. Assume the end, rest in it, and let life rearrange itself. The moment you let go, you make space for the universe to do its perfect work. And when it arrives, you will realize it could never have been planned better than it was. Everything you see in the physical world today was once invisible. Every invention, every creation, every circumstance began first as a thought, a vision, or a feeling that existed only in the unseen. The chair you sit on, the building you live in, the technology you hold, all of it was first imagined before it became tangible. This is the eternal law. The invisible precedes the visible. Nothing appears in the outer world unless it is first born in the inner world. To grasp this truth is to find peace, because you no longer look to appearances for reassurance. You understand that the real work is already complete the moment you have imagined and accepted it within. When you create inwardly, you are dealing with the cause, not the effect. The outer world is nothing more than a shadow, a reflection of what has already been conceived in the unseen. To try to manipulate the shadow is useless. The shadow has no life of its own. It only mirrors the object that casts it. In the same way, the circumstances you face are only the reflection of prior inner states. If you wish to change them, you must first change the invisible pattern within yourself. Relaxation comes when you accept this principle fully. Instead of worrying about how things will happen, you rest in the knowing that they already have happened inwardly. You have planted the seed in the soil of consciousness, and that seed carries within it the pattern of fulfillment. The seed does not need your constant interference. It needs only your trust. Just as a farmer understands that growth begins in darkness before it breaks into light, so too must you understand that the invisible work is done long before you see its evidence. This understanding allows you to stop fighting appearances. The senses may show lack, delay, or contradiction, but you know these are only old states still fading away. They cannot prevent the new seed from sprouting. The moment you imagine with feeling and accept it as real, the process is set in motion. Nothing can stop it but your own disbelief. And even then, the power is not gone. It simply waits for your acceptance once again. Think of how night always precedes morning. In the deepest darkness, the dawn is already certain. So it is with your desires. The outer world may appear silent, motionless, unchanged, but beneath the surface, the invisible is working tirelessly. To relax in this truth is to live with quiet confidence. You no longer demand proof, because you know the proof is inevitable. You no longer beg for signs because you know the manifestation is unfolding according to its perfect timing. The invisible is always greater than the visible. What you hold in imagination has more power than what you see with your eyes, because the unseen is the source and the seen is only the result. To live from this awareness is to walk in faith, to rest in certainty, and to know that your inner acceptance guarantees your outer manifestation. Once you have imagined and truly felt it, the outcome is no longer in question. It is inevitable. The invisible precedes the visible, and the unseen is already shaping itself into form on your behalf. The great secret of life is simple. All that you desire already exists within you. Imagination plants the seed, faith allows it to rest, silence protects it, and trust gives it room to grow. When you live from the end and let go of control, you understand that the invisible always precedes the visible. There is nothing to fear, nothing to chase, and nothing to force. The universe is not against you, it is within you, faithfully mirroring every inner state you choose to accept. So relax. Rest in the assurance that what you have inwardly claimed is already done. Let peace replace striving. Let conviction replace doubt. And let your inner vision guide the unfolding of your outer life. The harvest is certain, for creation is finished the moment you accept it within yourself. Thank you for listening, and may you carry this truth into every moment of your life with calmness, trust, and quiet confidence. Beloved, let me tell you this mystery. The future is not something waiting for you at the end of time. It is calling you now. The person you are destined to be is not distant, not unreachable, but present, waiting for you to awaken to its voice. The whispers you often ignore, the desires that burn quietly in your heart, are not accidents. They are messages. They are the letters written by the hand of your future self, sealed in the envelope of longing and delivered through the language of imagination. When you close your eyes and dare to see yourself as greater, freer, richer in spirit, you are not daydreaming, you are receiving a prophecy. That vision is not make-believe. It is a glimpse of the self you already are in another realm of existence. The question is, will you listen? For your future self does not speak in words but in feelings, the sense of certainty, the quiet joy of imagining the wish fulfilled. That is the voice of destiny speaking. Do not wait for signs outside, for the sign is within. The echo you hear in your chest when you imagine boldly, that is the future calling. And when you answer, not tomorrow, not later, but now, the line is made clear. Your task is not to create the future, but to embody the message it sends you. Walk as if the letter has been received. Speak as if the promise is already yours. Act as though the future has bent down and placed its crown upon your head. For truly it has. The future you are destined to become is already alive, and the messages it sends are waiting for your recognition. The moment you believe, the message is no longer from the future, it becomes the present. The future exists now. It is not a distant event that you are running toward, nor is it a treasure hidden in the dust of tomorrow. It is alive in this very moment, waiting for you to awaken to its presence. The life you long for, the dream you cherish, the state of being you crave is already unfolding in a higher dimension of consciousness. What you call the future is simply an unseen layer of reality existing here and now, awaiting your recognition. When you understand this, you no longer live as one who waits, but as one who receives. The seed of the oak is not the oak in potential, it is the oak in essence. Likewise, the vision you hold of yourself is not merely a possibility, it is a reality already established in the invisible. It is unfolding, perfect and complete, beyond the veil of your present awareness. The work is not to create it, but to align with it, to step into its rhythm, to embody its truth as if it were already yours. Many spend their lives postponing happiness, saying, "One day I will be free. One day I will be abundant. One day I will walk in purpose." But one day is not a place. It is an illusion. The only doorway to transformation is now. The life you desire is not waiting for years to pass or conditions to be met. It is waiting for you to accept that it already is. The universe does not operate by time as you know it. It operates by state. You do not move into the future by days, but by consciousness. Close your eyes and imagine yourself as the person you long to be. Feel the certainty of that life, the peace, the joy, the accomplishment, the freedom. As you enter that feeling, you are not pretending. You are aligning with the dimension where that life is real. That alignment is the bridge. It is the key that unlocks the unseen and draws it into your visible world. The shift is not in time, it is in awareness. Consider a radio. 100 frequencies exist in the same space, yet you only hear the one you are tuned to. Your future is no different. The life you desire is already broadcasting its song, but you must tune yourself to its frequency. How? By thought, by feeling, by imagination. By refusing to dwell in lack and choosing instead to dwell in fulfillment. Every moment you feel yourself in the state of your desired life, you are harmonizing with that dimension. And as surely as a seed planted in soil must sprout, your aligned state must express itself in the world around you. Do not measure your progress by outer appearances. The oak does not appear the moment the seed is planted. But already, within the unseen, the tree exists. So it is with your life. The invisible precedes the visible. and the future precedes the present. What you choose to believe now is the reality you will inevitably behold. Therefore, walk as though it is done, speak as though it is true, feel as though you already stand in the life you desire. The future exists now, and the moment you align with it, you step into its unfolding. Imagination is the bridge between who you are now and who you are destined to become. It is not idle play, nor empty fancy, but the sacred doorway through which your future self speaks to you. Every image that rises in the stillness of your mind, every scene that stirs your heart, is not mere invention. It is communication. It is the language of destiny, written in symbols and feelings, guiding you into alignment with the life that already awaits you. So often we are taught to treat imagination as childish, as if it were a toy to be discarded once we grow older. Yet imagination is the most powerful faculty of the human spirit. It is the eye that sees what the physical eye cannot. It is the bridge across time, where the unseen meets the seen. When you sit in silence and envision yourself living fully, walking boldly, thriving abundantly, you are not daydreaming. You are receiving a message from the dimension of your fulfilled self. That vision is real, it exists already, and your imagination is the thread that connects you to it. Think of how your heart responds when you dwell on such images. Notice how your body changes, how your breath deepens, how your spirit lifts. This is not fantasy, it is resonance. Your future self is pulling you, whispering, "This is who you are. This is where you belong." And the more you allow yourself to feel it, the stronger the bridge becomes. What you accept inwardly with conviction must eventually manifest outwardly. The world outside is only the echo of the world you have already built within. Imagination is not a tool for escape, but for creation. To escape is to run from what is, but to imagine is to transform what is by aligning with what is greater. When you picture yourself free, you are rehearsing freedom. When you imagine abundance, you are embodying wealth. When you envision love, you are cultivating the vibration that draws it into form. The unseen and the seen are not separate. They are one. Imagination is the bridge that allows what is hidden to be revealed. Consider the architect who designs a building. Before the stone is laid, the plan exists in imagination. Before the painter's brush touches the canvas, the image is alive within. In the same way, before your destiny appears in time, it is complete in the silence of your mind. To dismiss your imagination is to deny the blueprint of your own future. To embrace it is to walk across the bridge into the life already prepared for you. But the key is to dwell. A fleeting thought is a shadow, but a sustained image is a seed. What you dwell on in silence grows roots in the unseen and bears fruit in the seen. Do not think lightly of the moments you spend imagining. They are the sacred meetings where you commune with your future self. Each image you nurture in faith is a step across the bridge, a step into the reality that already exists. So guard your imagination. Do not use it to rehearse fear or replay failure. Use it to see beyond appearances, to anchor yourself in the greater truth of who you are becoming. For imagination is not fantasy, it is prophecy. It is the bridge that carries you from longing into fulfillment, from shadow into light, from what you are. To feel it as done is the great key. The secret is not to wait for signs, nor to look for proof in the outer world, but to take the end you desire and embody it now. The mind wants to postpone, to say, "One day I will be there, one day it will happen," but the spirit knows no delay. It moves not by time, but by feeling. The moment you feel the reality of your fulfilled life, you are joined to it. You are no longer reaching, you are receiving. Consider this truth. The world is but a mirror. It reflects back to you the inner state you carry. If you hold yourself in longing, the mirror shows you distance. If you hold yourself in fulfillment, the mirror shows you evidence. The outer life cannot resist the inner life you have claimed as real. Feeling is the magnet, and it draws into form what you already sense as true. When you imagine, do not stop at the picture, enter into it. Let it become alive, let it breathe in you. If you desire freedom, feel the weight lifted, the breath easy, the steps unchained. If you desire abundance, feel the relief of supply, the joy of overflow, the confidence of security. If you desire love, feel the warmth, the belonging, the certainty that you are cherished. Do not wait for these things to arrive from outside. Claim them within, and they must reveal themselves without. The error most people make is waiting for permission from circumstances. They believe they will feel joy once success appears, or peace once the problem resolves. But life bends in the opposite direction. Success appears once you feel joy. The problem resolves once you feel peace. You are not a victim of what is seen, you are the cause of what becomes seen. And the cause is feeling. Feeling it as done is not pretending, it is stepping into a higher law. Pretending is weak, it knows it is false. Feeling is faith, it knows it is real. Faith does not ask how or when. It rests in the certainty of already. This resting is the proof of trust. When you no longer chase, no longer grasp, no longer wonder if it will be, you are standing in the state of already fulfilled. And in that state, guidance flows. Intuition rises. Doors open. You do not force the path. The path reveals itself. Think of the actor who takes on a role. He does not wait for the states to transform before he embodies the character. He becomes it first, and the stage follows. So it is with life. Your outer world is the stage that conforms to the role you inwardly play. If you wish for change, you must step into the feeling of the new role now. The script is written in your emotion. Therefore, begin this moment. Do not say, I will feel it tomorrow. Choose the end you desire and clothe yourself in its reality. Walk as though it is finished. Rest as though it is complete. Let the feeling of fulfillment be your constant dwelling, for when you feel it as done, the unseen world bows, and the seen world follows. Every true desire is not a random spark, nor an empty craving. It is a whisper from your future self. It is the voice of who you already are in another dimension, calling you to rise, to expand, to embody the fullness of your being. When you feel the pull of a deep desire, understand that it is not something you are trying to become. It is something you already are, urging you to recognize it here and now. Desire is often misunderstood. Many are taught to suppress it, to treat it as weakness, to mistrust the longing within. But desire is holy. It is the current that connects you to the greater version of yourself. It is the conversation between the visible and the invisible, between the present self and the future self. To silence desire is to silence guidance. To honor desire is to walk the path of destiny. Notice the difference between fleeting wants and true desires. A want may arise from comparison, from fear, from the grasping of the ego, but a true desire carries weight, depth, and persistence. It does not leave you. It stirs your heart in quiet moments. It returns to you when you think you have let it go. This kind of desire is not placed in you by accident. It is a message, a seed, a reminder that the life you long for already exists. The desire itself is proof. When you long for freedom, it is because freedom is your essence. When you yearn for love, it is because love is your nature. When you hunger for abundance, it is because abundance is already your inheritance. Desire is the echo of the future calling into the present, saying, "Come closer. Step into what you already are." The mistake is to think desire means lack. It does not. Desire means alignment is calling. It is not showing you what you are missing, but what you are meant to claim. It is not a gap to be filled, but a bridge to be crossed. If you treat desire as absence, you chain yourself to longing. If you treat desire as guidance, you walk straight into fulfillment. Full men, do not ignore your desires, for they are the map. They show you the direction of your unfolding. Every step you take toward them is a step toward your truest self. But the step is not always outer. It begins inwardly. To honor desire, you must first accept it as real. Allow yourself to feel its reality. Embrace the joy of its fulfillment. Know that the moment the desire was born within you, the path to its realization was born also. Think of desire as a seed planted by your future self. The moment you feel it, the seed is alive. You do not need to force it into being. You need only nurture it, water it with faith. Dwell in the certainty that it already belongs to you. In time, it must break through into form. So listen carefully to your desires. They are not distractions, they are directions. They are not weaknesses, they are revelations. Each true desire is your future self reaching back, urging you to become what you already are. And when you honor that voice, you will see that the life you dreamed of was never ahead of you. It was within you, calling all along. Silence is the portal through which the unseen speaks. In the stillness of mind, when the noise of worry and doubt fades, the voice of your future self can be heard. It does not shout, it does not demand. It whispers with clarity, guiding you with the certainty of one who already knows the path. The question is never whether guidance exists, but whether you are quiet enough to receive it. Life is full of noise. The mind is often crowded with questions, fears, and endless analysis. We chase answers from the world outside, hoping someone else will reveal the way. Yet the deepest answers are not found in the clamor of voices, but in the silence of the heart. When you dare to be still, when you rest the mind and release the strain, something higher begins to move. You realize the guidance you were searching for has been within you all along. Silence is not emptiness, it is fullness. It is the space where the eternal speaks. The future you, already wise, already whole, already complete, communicates through the language of intuition, hunches, sudden clarity, gentle nudges of feeling. These impressions rise only when the waters of the mind are calm. If the surface is disturbed, the reflection cannot be seen. But in silence, the reflection of your greater self becomes clear. Think of a radio again. Countless frequencies fill the air, but unless you tune in, you cannot hear them. Silence is the tuning dial. It aligns you with the frequency of your higher self, the self that already knows the end from the beginning. The guidance you seek is not far away. It is waiting on the other side of stillness. But silence requires trust. The restless mind wants to act, to analyze, to force solutions. Yet the more you struggle, the more tangled you become. Guidance does not come through force, it comes through surrender. In silence, you let go of the need to control, and in that letting go, the path unfolds. You do not need to figure everything out, you need to listen. And listening is only possible when you are still. Make time to enter this sacred silence. Close your eyes, release the tension of the day, and let your thoughts settle. In that quiet space, imagine yourself already living the life you desire. Let the feeling of fulfillment rise gently within you. Do not push, do not grasp, simply allow. In that allowing, messages will come. A sense of peace about a decision, a sudden vision of what step to take, an inner certainty that needs no explanation. This is the voice of your future self, guiding you from beyond time. Understand this, silence is not passive. It is the most powerful action you can take. In silence, you realign with your true nature. In silence, you open the door for wisdom to flow. In silence, you step into communion with the self that has already arrived. So treasure silence. Do not fear it. Do not rush from it. Enter it as you would enter a sacred temple, for in that stillness you will find the portal, and through that portal you will hear the guidance that never fails. The voice of your future self is waiting, not in the chaos, but in the silence. To live the message now is the final step, the great act of faith that turns the unseen into the seen. Your future does not wait for years to pass. It waits for you to embody it in this very moment. The guidance you have received through desire, imagination, and silence is not meant to remain in thought alone. It is meant to be lived. To connect with your future, you must act, think, and feel as though the message has already manifested. Too often people hold their vision at arm's length. They treat it as a hope, something to admire from afar, but not something to wear in the present. They say, one day I will live that way, when the evidence appears. But the truth is reversed. Evidence does not appear until you live as though it already has. Life mirrors what you embody. The moment you begin to carry yourself as though the promise is fulfilled, the world bends to confirm it. Fifth, this does not mean pretending. Pretending knows it is false. Living the message means identifying yourself with the reality of your desire so deeply that you no longer question it. If the future has already spoken, why delay? If the message has already been sent, why wait to open it? Walk in the confidence that it is done, and every step you take will carve the path for its unfolding. Think of a person rehearsing for a role. Before the curtain rises, they speak, move, and breathe as the character. By the time they stand before the audience, they are no longer acting, they are simply being. So it is with your life. If you want freedom, walk in freedom's posture now. If you want abundance, let your choices reflect the wisdom of one who already has enough. If you want love, radiate the openness of one who is already cherished. The role must be lived before the stage can transform. Every action you take, no matter how small, carries power when it is rooted in the assumption that the message is already real. The way you speak about yourself, the way you treat others, the way you carry your inner state, these are all declarations to the universe. They announce, this is who I am, this is my reality. and reality cannot help but respond. Living the message also requires consistency. A seed planted once does not bear fruit overnight. It must be nurtured daily. So hold fast to the feeling of fulfillment. Return to it again and again until it becomes your natural dwelling. Do not be swayed by appearances that seem to contradict it. The outer world is always slower to change than the inner. But the change is certain if you persist in living as though it is already here. So begin now. Act as though the letter from your future self has been received and read. Think as though the promise has already unfolded. Feel as though the crown has already been placed upon your head. When you live the message now, you collapse the distance between what is unseen and what is seen. The future is no longer ahead of you, it is within you, expressed through every thought, every word, every step. And in that living, the message is fulfilled. So, the voice of your future self has been speaking all along, through desire, through imagination, through the silence, through the feelings you dare to embrace. It has been whispering, not of something far away, but of something already here, waiting for your recognition. The life you long for is not coming from the outside, it is unfolding from within you. Every vision you honor, every feeling you sustain, every step you live as though it is already done, these are the bridges that collapse time and reveal destiny in the now. Do not wait for tomorrow. Tomorrow is only the echo of today. Live the message now. Speak it, feel it, breathe it, and the future you will not only meet, you will embody. For the greatest truth is this: you are already the one you seek to become. Thanks. Thank you for walking this journey with me. May you hear the whispers of your future self and have the courage to live them now. If this message touched you, share it with others who are ready to awaken to their destiny. Your support means everything. Stay inspired, stay awakened, and remember, the future exists in you right now. Thank you. There are moments in life when everything seems to stand still, when the promises you've held in your heart feel delayed and every door appears closed. But what if I told you that in those silent stretches of time, everything is still working out perfectly, precisely, divinely, in your favor? You see, what we call delay is often divine choreography. Life is not punishing you, it is positioning you. Every seeming setback, every unanswered prayer is not rejection, it is redirection. The unseen hand of God is arranging circumstances, moving people, and aligning opportunities in a way that your physical eyes cannot yet perceive. Trust the silence, trust the stillness, trust the timing. When you learn to rest in faith, you stop wrestling with when and start dwelling in it is done. You no longer beg the universe to move. You realize it already has. The moment you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, the instant you dare to believe, something shifted in the unseen realm. Time itself began to conspire for your favor. You may not see it yet, but beneath the surface, roots are forming. The dream you planted in faith is alive. Every challenge, every delay, every disappointment is nourishing that seed. The soil of patience is where miracles grow. There will come a day, and it may not look like today, when everything will suddenly make sense. The closed doors will reveal their protection. The lost opportunities will unveil their purpose. And you'll see that what looked like waiting was actually preparation. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are right on schedule with divine timing. So hold the vision even when you see nothing. Speak the promise even when the evidence says otherwise. Stay faithful in the unseen, because what you have imagined in faith is already finding its way into form. Every delay has a divine reason, and every season has its appointed time. What belongs to you cannot be lost. What's meant for you will not pass you by. Don't give up before the breakthrough. The moment you're tempted to quit is often the moment just before everything shifts in your favor. Breathe, believe, and be still. For everything, yes, everything is working out in your favor. Trust God's timing. What we often perceive as delay is not a denial, but a divine orchestration moving in silence. The human mind, impatient by nature, measures progress by visible results, by the ticking of clocks and the movement of calendars. Yet, the divine realm operates beyond human time. It unfolds through alignment, preparation, and unseen coordination. What seems like nothing is happening is often the very moment when everything is being arranged with precision. When life slows down, when doors refuse to open, it is easy to think something has gone wrong. But delay is not disorder, it is order in disguise. The universe is never late, it is exact. Every event, every meeting, every outcome unfolds according to a rhythm that surpasses logic. You are not being punished by delay, you are being protected by it. For if the thing you long for arrived before you were ready, or before it was ready for you, what was meant to bless you could burden you instead. Divine timing ensures that both you and your desire mature at the same pace. There are invisible threads connecting your destiny to countless other lives, situations, and choices. While you wait, those threads are being woven together. The right people are being prepared. The right opportunities are forming. The right path is being cleared. You cannot see the pattern while it is being stitched, but when the tapestry of your life is revealed, you will understand why every pause had purpose. Sometimes delay is God's way of deepening your faith, stripping you of impatience, fear, and doubt, so that when your promise arrives, you receive it with strength, gratitude, and humility. The waiting season is secret. It refines the heart and clarifies intention. It teaches you to depend not on external progress, but on inner assurance. When you learn to rest in the knowing that everything is unfolding perfectly, you align with divine intelligence itself. You stop forcing, you stop fighting, and you start allowing. The truth is, delay is never wasted time. It is divine preparation disguised as stillness. The same way a seed is buried before it breaks through the soil, your manifestation hides beneath the surface, gathering strength. You do not dig up the soil to check if the seed is growing. You water it in faith, trusting that nature is doing her perfect work beneath the surface. So it is with your desires. What you have prayed for, imagined, and believed is germinating in the unseen. The divine order behind delays is not chaos, it is choreography. Every second of waiting is a step in a larger dance of timing and grace. And when the appointed hour comes, not a moment sooner, not a moment later, everything that once seemed withheld will appear suddenly, effortlessly, beautifully. Then you will realize that the delay was never against you. It was always for you. The path was being cleared, the timing perfected, and you were being prepared for the blessing that was already yours. Time, as we perceive it, is not as rigid as it appears. It bends and rearranges itself around the state of your consciousness. Every inner assumption, every feeling you consistently hold, quietly molds the events that unfold in your external world. What we call waiting is not about minutes and hours passing, it is about alignment. The moment your inner belief becomes one with your desire, time ceases to be an obstacle. The universe begins to reorganize itself to make what you have accepted within you a living reality. Your outer life is nothing more than a mirror reflecting the inner world you sustain. When you doubt, time delays. When you believe, time accelerates. You may think life is happening to you, but it is happening through you, responding faithfully to the vibration of your inner state. This is why two people can face the same situation and experience completely different outcomes. It is not the situation that determines the result, but the state of consciousness they occupy within it. When you assume the feeling of already having what you desire, you invite it into the present moment. In that instance, something powerful shifts in the unseen realm. The laws of time begin to bend to your conviction. Circumstances rearrange, opportunities appear, and people begin to move in patterns that lead you directly to the fulfillment of your inner assumption. It is not that you are forcing life to change, it is that your belief has changed, and therefore life must follow. You see, time only appears to move forward when we are disconnected from our desires. But in truth, all possibilities already exist. When you enter into the state of your fulfilled desire, when you feel it real and accept it as done, you align yourself with the version of reality where that desire is already accomplished. The world outside simply takes time to catch up to your inner knowing. What feels like waiting is just the unfolding of what has already been set in motion by your faith. It is not effort or struggle that bends time, it is certainty. When you know that what you desire is already yours, you release resistance, and in that release, divine speed takes over. Time compresses. Events that would have taken years can unfold in days because you have entered into harmony with the frequency of your fulfilled state. You are no longer chasing your desire, you are magnetizing it. So if you find yourself waiting, do not fight the clock. Instead, shift your state. Close your eyes and feel the joy of already being the person who has what they seek. Let that feeling become so real, so natural, that it replaces every trace of doubt. When your inner belief and your outer desire are one, time itself becomes your servant. It bends, accelerates, and rearranges to bring you the proof of what you already know is true within. Reality always follows the conviction of your spirit. Faith is not blind optimism or wishful thinking. It is spiritual vision. It is the inner knowing that what you have imagined, hoped for, and believed in already exists, even when the outer world shows no evidence of it. True faith is not waiting to see before believing. It is believing so deeply that seeing becomes inevitable. It is resting in the invisible, knowing that the unseen realm is already at work on your behalf. The visible world is only a shadow cast by the unseen. Everything that ever appeared began first as an invisible idea, a silent conviction, a seed of imagination, nurtured in the soil of faith. When you trust in that unseen realm, you align with the creative power that governs all existence. The moment you accept something as true within, it begins to take form without. The universe, in perfect obedience, mirrors the condition of your belief. But faith often demands surrender, a release of control, a quiet acceptance that you do not need to know how or when. The human mind seeks evidence, logic, and sequence, but faith speaks a different language. It whispers, "It is done," even when everything visible screams the opposite. This inner rest, this stillness amid uncertainty, is the highest form of power. For when you no longer depend on external proof, you become proof yourself, the embodiment of divine trust. The unseen world is always moving in your favor, arranging the pieces you cannot yet see. The delays, the detours, the disappointments are not signs of failure, they are signs of divine movement. Faith teaches you to interpret silence not as absence, but as activity. Just as a seed buried in darkness is not dead but growing, your prayer, your vision, your dream is germinating beneath the surface. You may not hear it, but the roots are forming. You may not see it, but the shape of your answer is taking form. To live by faith is to walk by inner conviction rather than outer condition. You no longer ask life to show you results before you believe. You become the evidence of what you believe. You hold the feeling of your answered prayer until the world has no choice but to reflect it. The invisible must become visible. When you refuse to let go of your assumption of fulfillment, faith is rest, not resignation, but divine assurance. It is the quiet confidence that everything needed is already in motion, even if you cannot trace its path. When you live from that place, anxiety loses its grip and doubt dissolves. The unseen becomes more real to you than the seen. And soon the invisible forces that have been moving on your behalf reveal their work in perfect timing. So trust what cannot be seen. Rest in the unseen reality. For the moment you believe it exists, it begins to move toward you. The invisible is not far away. It is within you, waiting to unfold through the power of your unwavering faith. There is a sacred rhythm to life, a divine order that governs every unfolding event. Nothing arrives too early, and nothing is withheld too long. Yet the human heart, in its longing and impatience, often wrestles with time, always asking, when will it happen? When will my dream come to pass? But divine timing is not bound by your clock. It operates through alignment, not anxiety. When you release your anxious grasp on when, you open the way for the perfect how to be revealed. Anxious waiting creates resistance. It tells the universe that you do not yet trust the process. It focuses on lack, on absence, on the feeling that something is missing. But divine timing flows through surrender, through the quiet confidence that everything you desire is already on its way, unfolding at the exact pace needed for your highest good. When you let go of the question of when, you move into harmony with divine intelligence. You stop pushing against life and begin flowing with it. Every manifestation is a meeting between readiness and right timing. Sometimes the delay is not about the dream, but about your development. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, withholds certain outcomes until you have become the person capable of carrying them. The waiting period refines you, strengthens your faith, and deepens your understanding. What feels like stagnation is often sacred preparation. You are being expanded to hold the blessing that is coming. When you release your need to control the timing, you make space for miracles. The perfect sequence of events begins to unfold effortlessly. People appear, opportunities align, and paths open that logic could never have planned. Divine timing does not operate through struggle. It operates through synchronicity. It is the gentle orchestration of countless moving parts converging in one perfect moment. And that moment always comes right on time. Trust that what is meant for you is already on its way, guided by a hand far wiser than your own. You do not have to chase it or force it into being. You only need to remain faithful to the vision, grateful in the waiting and peaceful in the process. Every unanswered question, every seeming delay carries hidden wisdom. Life is not withholding your desire. It is aligning you with it in the most graceful way possible. There comes a day when you will look back and see how every delay served you. You will understand that what you call waiting was actually divine choreography, arranging the details for a perfect arrival. The timing you once questioned will reveal itself as flawless. And so be still, breathe, release your grasp on when, and rest in the knowing that divine timing has never failed. The perfect how is already unfolding in ways beyond your imagination. What belongs to you will arrive effortlessly in the moment you are ready to receive it, and not a second before, nor a second too late. Stillness is often misunderstood as doing nothing, as idleness or passivity. But true stillness is not the absence of action, it is the presence of alignment. It is the sacred posture of one who trusts the higher intelligence that governs all life. In stillness, you cease the restless striving of the mind and allow divine order to take the lead. You stop forcing outcomes and start cooperating with the unseen rhythm that already knows what to do, when to do it, and how to do it perfectly. In the world of noise, movement, and urgency, stillness feels unnatural. We are taught that progress comes only through effort and activity, yet the greatest transformations often happen in silence, in the quiet spaces where your spirit becomes attuned to divine wisdom. When you are still, you step out of the turbulence of worry and into the flow of faith. You release the need to control every detail and rest in the knowing that everything is being handled by an intelligence far greater than your conscious mind. Stillness is divine cooperation. It is saying, I trust the process even when I can't see it. It is the silent act of faith that creates the perfect environment for miracles to unfold. In that sacred pause, the noise of fear quiets, the confusion clears, and the truth begins to speak. The higher order, that invisible intelligence moving through all creation, can only guide you when your inner world becomes still enough to hear it. Imagine a lake on a windy day. The waves are restless, the surface distorted, and the reflection unclear. But when the wind settles and the water becomes calm, the lake perfectly mirrors the sky. So it is with you. When your mind is agitated, you cannot see divine guidance clearly. But when you become still, your soul reflects heaven's wisdom. Answers rise effortlessly. Direction appears naturally. The next step reveals itself without struggle. Stillness does not mean passivity, it means inspired action. Action born not from panic or pressure, but from peace. When you act from stillness, every movement carries power, precision, and grace. You stop reacting to circumstances and start creating from a place of calm authority. This is how the invisible becomes visible, not through frantic effort, but through quiet alignment. The power of stillness lies in its ability to connect you with what already knows. The higher order that breathes the stars into existence also guides your steps. It does not need your worry to work. It needs your willingness to be still. So pause, breathe, let the noise within you settle. Trust that while you rest in stillness, the unseen world is moving with perfect accuracy on your behalf. In the silence, creation is speaking. In the calm, the path is clearing. Stillness is not inactivity. It is sacred cooperation with divine ardor, where your soul and the universe move as one. There is a moment in every journey when the promise seems silent, when all your effort feels unrewarded, and the vision you've held begins to fade under the weight of delay. This is the most dangerous moment, the season of gestation, where many give up, not realizing that the breakthrough is forming just beneath the surface. Like a seed buried in the dark, your manifestation is alive, growing, and reaching upward even when you cannot see a single sign of movement. Every dream requires a hidden season. Just as nature takes time to mature a seed before it breaks through the soil, life takes time to prepare your desire for full expression. The waiting season is not punishment, it is process. It is where strength, patience, and faith are built. What looks like stillness is actually sacred activity, roots spreading, foundations forming, timing aligning. But because the work is invisible, it is easy to assume nothing is happening and give up too soon. The universe is faithful to those who persist beyond appearances. The soil of delay is never empty. It holds the unseen promise of everything you have imagined in faith. Yet, impatience blinds us to this truth. When we look for quick evidence and find none, we begin to doubt. But remember, the darker the soil, the deeper the growth. The silence you fear is often the very space where the miracle is being arranged. Think of the farmer who plants a seed. He doesn't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. He trusts the process. He waters, waits, and believes that nature will do her perfect work. So too must you trust the invisible. Your job is not to force the bloom, but to nurture your faith until it appears. Every time you choose belief over fear, every time you give thanks instead of giving up, you are watering your dream. Many quit just before their harvest. They walk away at the threshold, unaware that one more moment of faith would have opened the floodgates of manifestation. But the universe rewards the spirit that endures. The moment you refuse to surrender to doubt, the energy of persistence sends a powerful signal, a declaration that you are ready to receive. So when nothing seems to be happening, stay the course. When the night feels endless, keep believing. The gestation season is not the end. It is the sacred pause before creation becomes visible. You may not see the flower yet, but life within the seed is unstoppable. Do not abandon your dream in the silence. Do not lose heart when your prayer echoes back unanswered. Something magnificent is forming in the unseen, the perfect bloom of what you have believed for. Stay faithful a little longer. The soil will break, the light will appear, and when it does, you will understand why waiting was never wasted. It was preparation for the beauty that was always destined to bloom. Everything in your life, every pause, every delay, every unseen moment is part of a divine orchestration working perfectly in your favor. What appears as stillness is not stagnation, it is sacred movement in the unseen. When you choose faith over fear, trust over timing, and stillness over struggle, you align yourself with the rhythm of divine order. Life is not against you, it is unfolding for you in ways far beyond your understanding. So do not give up. The dream you've carried in your heart is alive, even if you cannot yet see it. Trust that every step, every silence, every closed door is leading you closer to your appointed moment. Your breakthrough is not lost. It's simply aligning with perfect timing. Hold your faith. Keep believing. Everything is working out exactly as it should. Beautifully, divinely, and right on time. Thank you for watching, and remember, trust God's timing, because what's meant for you will never pass you by. There are moments in life when everything seems quiet, too quiet. You've prayed, you've believed, you've waited, and still nothing appears to move. But let me tell you, this silence is not the absence of God. It is the sound of divine construction. Behind what your eyes cannot see, heaven is arranging something far greater than what you've asked for. Every delay, every disappointment, every detour has been part of a higher orchestration. You were not being denied, you were being prepared. There's a reason this message has reached you right now. Because your season is shifting. You are standing at the edge of a divine turning point. Do not be fooled by appearances. The visible world is the slowest form of manifestation. Everything begins within, in the unseen realm of imagination and faith. When you close your eyes and feel the reality of your desire, you are touching the substance of what is to come. The invisible responds to your conviction. It listens not to your words, but to your inner knowing, right now, as you hold on. Even with trembling faith, something is being aligned for your favor. The very thing that looked lost is being restored in a higher form. The people who walked away were never meant to carry the weight of your blessing. The doors that closed were not rejection. They were divine redirection toward the promise meant for you. God has not forgotten you. In fact, you are closer than you think. When the night feels longest, the dawn is already forming. That heaviness in your spirit is not defeat. It's the birth pangs of destiny. The old chapter is ending because a new one is written and waiting for you to enter it. You don't have to strive anymore. You simply have to align, to rest in the knowing that what is yours cannot be taken, delayed, or destroyed. The universe bends to the faith of one who dares to believe, even when all evidence says otherwise. So lift your eyes again, feel the shift inside your heart, speak the promise as though it has already come to pass, give thanks for what you cannot yet touch, for gratitude is the proof of faith. If you're seeing this right now, it is not coincidence, it's confirmation. You are being called to hold your faith firm just a little longer. The breakthrough you've been praying for is already in motion. God is about to do something big, something that will make sense of every tear, every waiting season, and every silent night. Don't give up. You are not at the end. You are standing on the threshold of divine fulfillment. Stay still, stay believing, and watch what happens next. When weariness sets in, when the soul feels heavy and the road ahead looks endless, it's easy to believe that something has gone wrong, that maybe your prayers have lost their power or your vision has run dry. But that deep exhaustion you're feeling is not a sign of defeat. It's often the quiet whisper of transformation. It is the soul's way of telling you that a major shift is near. The weariness that comes before breakthrough is not the fatigue of failure. It's the labor before birth. Every time you grow tired of waiting, something within you is expanding. You are outgrowing the old patterns, the old limitations, and even the old version of yourself that once felt safe. The discomfort is not punishment, it's preparation. When the seed pushes against the soil, it must break through the darkness before it sees the light. So when your spirit feels pressed, when your patience feels stretched thin, it is only because you are being ushered into a new dimension of being. God allows this inner tension not to destroy you, but to awaken you. You cannot enter the next level with the same mindset that belonged to the old season. So the weariness comes to strip away false identities, to remove dependency on appearances, and to remind you that strength is born in surrender. When everything in you wants to quit, that is the sacred moment when the old is dissolving and the new is forming. The unseen is rearranging itself to match the vision you've been holding. Sometimes your spirit grows tired, not because you're weak, but because you've carried the unseen weight of transition. You've been believing for something that has not yet materialized, and that invisible work can be exhausting. But know this. Every tear, every silent prayer, every night of doubt has been building the inner foundation for your new reality. The moment you feel you can't go on is often the very moment the shift begins. That inner fatigue is your signpost, heaven's quiet signal that the old cycle is complete. Instead of resisting the weariness, honor it. Rest in the knowing that something is breaking open for your good. The mind may say nothing is happening, but the spirit knows better. The stillness you feel is not emptiness, it's divine movement in disguise. You are being reshaped from within. The vision you've held is taking form in the unseen, and soon the outer world will catch up to the inner transformation that's already complete. So if you feel tired, don't curse the process. Let it be a sign that you are closer than ever to manifestation. The fatigue is proof that you have stayed the course, that you have believed through silence and delay something great is near, not because of what you see, but because of what you've become. The weariness is not your end, it is the trembling before the dawn. The shift you've been praying for is already unfolding within you, preparing to appear without. Everything that exists in your outer world first began as an unseen image in someone's inner world. Imagination is not a mere daydream. It is the womb of reality, the silent workshop of creation where all miracles are conceived. Every structure, every breakthrough, every answered prayer is born from the invisible realm of thought and feeling. What you consistently see and feel within becomes the law that governs what unfolds around you. The mistake many make is believing that reality is fixed, that what the eye sees is all there is. But the truth is far deeper. The outer world is a mirror, faithfully reflecting the dominant images and emotions held within the mind. When you imagine with conviction, not as wishful thinking, but as a felt reality, you impress that vision upon the unseen substance from which all form arises. The universe has no choice but to rearrange itself to match the picture you hold in faith. Think of your imagination as divine soil. Whatever seed of thought you plant within it will grow, whether it be faith or fear, abundance or lack, healing or despair. The soil does not discriminate. It simply produces according to what is sown. So the question becomes, what are you planting? Are you rehearsing doubt, or are you envisioning the fulfillment of your desire with gratitude and certainty? Every mental picture, repeated with emotion, becomes a command to creation itself. When you live from your imagination rather than your senses, you begin to transcend circumstance. You are no longer limited by what is visible because you understand that the visible is temporary, but the unseen is eternal. The moment you feel the joy of having what you desire, even before it appears, you call that reality into being. Feeling is the language of creation. The stronger your inner conviction, the faster the outer world bends to reflect it. Miracles are not interruptions of natural law. They are expressions of higher law, the law of faith, which says, as within, so without. When your inner vision becomes unwavering, your world cannot help but conform. Even the impossible becomes possible, because imagination bridges the gap between where you are and where you wish to be. You don't have to force it or chase it. You simply become it in consciousness, and the outer will follow. So close your eyes for a moment. See yourself already standing in the life you desire. Feel it, not as hope, but as certainty. Walk through it in your mind until it feels more real than your present surroundings, that inner scene. When felt with deep conviction, becomes your unseen command to creation. In time, reality will mirror what you have seen within yourself all along. Imagination is the seed of every miracle. Plant it with faith, water it with feeling, and watch your world transform into the reflection of your inner belief. There are seasons in life when it seems as though heaven has gone silent, when your prayers echo back to you and every door you knock on remains closed. It is in these moments that doubt creeps in, whispering that maybe you were forgotten, or perhaps what you hoped for wasn't meant to be. But in truth, what looks like delay is never denial. It is divine preparation. The unseen hand of God is arranging every detail, aligning every element, and shaping you into the person capable of carrying what you've asked for. Delay is not wasted time, it is sacred timing. You are being refined in the waiting, stretched in patience, deepened in faith, and strengthened in character. The dream that comes too soon can crush the one who isn't ready for its weight. So God, in infinite wisdom, holds certain blessings back until your heart and circumstances can sustain them. He is not punishing you with delay. He is protecting you with preparation. When nothing seems to be happening, much is happening beneath the surface. Just as a seed takes root in darkness before breaking through the soil, your answered prayer is developing in the unseen realm. The roots of your faith are growing deep, so that when your miracle appears, it will stand firm. You cannot rush divine timing because it is not about the clock. It's about alignment. God's plan unfolds in patterns, not panic. Every moment of waiting has meaning, even when it doesn't make sense. Often, the delay reveals what still needs to be released, the old fears, limiting beliefs, and attachments that cannot enter the next season with you. The waiting tests the authenticity of your desire and purifies your motives. If you can remain faithful in the quiet, you prove that your faith is rooted not in outcomes, but in trust. That is the posture that invites miracles. Unwavering belief in the unseen goodness of God, even when all evidence says otherwise. Even when everything says otherwise, you are not being punished by the wait, you are being positioned by it. Every delay carries divine intelligence. The right people are being prepared, the right opportunities are being shaped, and the right timing is being perfected. When it finally comes together, you will realize that nothing was random. Every pause had purpose. The delay was the bridge that carried you from desire to fulfillment. So rest in the knowing that divine timing is flawless. You are not late. You are right on schedule, according to heaven's rhythm. Keep your vision alive in the waiting, not by striving, but by trusting. The manifestation is already in motion, even if your senses cannot perceive it yet. What feels like stillness is actually movement on a higher plane. The pattern of delay is not withholding. It is the divine choreography that ensures your miracle arrives complete, mature, and perfectly timed. Faith is not hope dressed in polite words. It is a quiet certainty that what you have believed is already accomplished, even when every visible sign says otherwise. It is the unwavering conviction that the unseen is more real than the seen, that the promise is fulfilled the moment it is accepted within. True faith does not beg, it rests. It does not strain for proof, it knows. It is not a desperate reaching, but a serene awareness that the thing desired is already yours in the invisible realm. To walk by faith is to live from the end, to occupy the state of your fulfilled desire as though it were already fact. This is the great secret of manifestation, to feel now what you wish to experience later. The world may tell you to wait and see, but faith reverses that law and declares, see, and you will wait no longer. Faith moves first, evidence follows. When you truly believe, you stop searching for signs, because belief itself is the sign. The inner conviction is the proof of things not seen. There is a power in quiet confidence, a strength in still assurance. Faith doesn't fight against appearances, it transcends them. It does not deny what the senses perceive, but knows that what is seen is temporary, while what is unseen is eternal. The circumstances around you may contradict your vision, but faith sees beyond contradiction. It holds the outcome so firmly within that the outer world must eventually conform to it. When you rest in faith, you shift from effort to embodiment. You stop trying to make things happen and begin living as if they already have. You no longer speak from lack or longing, but from gratitude and possession. This inner alignment creates a magnetic pull between your unseen belief and its visible manifestation. The law of life is simple. Whatever you accept as true within yourself becomes true in your experience. Many grow weary because they confuse faith with waiting. Faith is not waiting for something to come. It is the awareness that it already is. When you truly believe, time loses its grip on you. You may not see it yet, but you know that in the unseen dimension it is finished. That knowing is what moves mountains, heals hearts, and changes destinies. The outer world always bends to the strength of inner conviction. So when doubt tries to whisper, but what if it doesn't happen? Answer with a calm assurance. It already has. Let that certainty be your resting place. Faith is not blind, it is visionary. It sees through the surface of things into the eternal substance behind them. To live in faith is to walk hand in hand with the unseen, trusting that what you hold in consciousness today will soon become what you hold in your hands tomorrow. Every struggle carries within it a sacred threshold, a point unseen by the natural eye, where the balance quietly shifts, and what once worked against you begins to move in your favor. This moment of breakthrough often comes disguised as exhaustion, discouragement, or even despair. It arrives at the very instant when you feel you have nothing left to give, when your faith feels stretched to its final thread. Yet, in that unseen realm, divine forces are already at work, rearranging circumstances to fulfill the vision you held within. Breakthrough rarely announces itself. It doesn't come with thunder or applause. It comes in stillness. It is born in those moments when you choose to believe one more time, to stand firm when everything in you wants to surrender. Every great turning point in life begins with that inner decision to persist in faith, to hold the image of victory even when defeat appears inevitable. The unseen begins to respond the moment you refuse to give up. There is a law in the spiritual dimension. Nothing truly believed goes unanswered. Every act of faith creates an invisible ripple that gathers momentum until it manifests. So when you pray, when you imagine, when you persist despite appearances, you are setting divine motion into play. Just because you can't see movement doesn't mean nothing is happening. In fact, the silence often means that everything is happening, just beyond the veil of sight. Think of a seed planted deep in the earth. Long before the first sprout breaks through the soil, an explosion of life occurs underground. Roots stretch downward unseen, drawing nourishment and strength. If the seed could see only darkness, it might think nothing is happening. Yet that hidden process is the most important part of growth. The same is true for your life. Your roots are expanding beneath the surface, preparing you to rise. When breakthrough draws near, resistance often intensifies. The pressure you feel is not the sign of defeat, but the final contraction before birth. Many give up just moments before the shift occurs because they mistake the final struggle for failure. But the darkness that surrounds you now is not an ending. It is the veil that separates you from your answered prayer. Once you push through it, what was once unseen becomes undeniable. Every struggle you've endured has been building the strength, clarity, and faith necessary to sustain your blessing. The pain was not wasted. It was part of the divine calibration preparing your life for alignment. When the invisible tipping point is reached, everything changes. Suddenly, easily, effortlessly. What took years to build appears overnight. No, that is the nature of breakthrough. It seems sudden, but it is the result of every unseen moment of belief, every prayer whispered in faith, and every tear sown in trust. Hold steady, your unseen is moving, and your breakthrough is closer than you think. There is an unshakable truth woven into the fabric of existence. What God begins, He always completes. No promise spoken into your spirit will ever return void. Even when you cannot see it, even when the path feels uncertain and the waiting seems endless, the fulfillment of that divine word is in motion. God is not a man that He should lie, nor does He abandon what He plants. Every promise carries its own appointed time. And when that time ripens, nothing on earth or in heaven can prevent its manifestation. The journey between promise and fulfillment is where most lose heart. It is the space where faith is tested and patience is perfected. You may wonder why it takes so long, why the vision burns within you yet remains unseen. But the delay is never a sign of denial. It is the process of preparation. God is aligning everything, not just circumstances, but you. He is shaping your heart, refining your character, and fortifying your faith so that when the promise appears, you can sustain it. When God plants a promise within you, it becomes a living seed. That seed contains everything needed for its own fulfillment: the design, the timing, and the power to grow. But it must be nurtured by your faith. You water it with your words, protect it with your thoughts, and feed it with your imagination. The outer world may contradict it, but the promise remains true. The unseen world is more real than what your eyes can perceive, and when you persist in faith, the invisible begins to crystallize into form. There comes a moment when faith matures into knowing, when you no longer question if it will happen, because you feel that it already has. That quiet certainty becomes the magnet that draws the unseen into visibility. You no longer chase the promise, you become it. This is the mystery of divine manifestation, that what you hold in consciousness as true must eventually express itself in your world. God works through your belief, through your inner acceptance, through your willingness to see beyond appearances. So when weariness comes, remember, you are not waiting for God to act. God is waiting for you to believe completely. The fulfillment is already written. The end is secure. The very longing you feel is the sign that the promise is alive within you and nearing its manifestation. What began as an inner whisper will one day stand before you in full form, undeniable and complete. Do not let temporary silence make you doubt eternal truth. The same power that began this journey within you will bring it to completion. Stay faithful, stay expectant, stay aligned. The unseen is gathering itself to reveal what has always been yours. God finishes what he starts always. When your faith holds steady, the invisible becomes visible, and the promise that once felt distant becomes your living reality. Every waiting season, every unseen battle, and every silent night has been leading you to this very moment. Nothing has been wasted. Not the pain, not the process, not the time. God has been working behind the curtain of your life, arranging the pieces, preparing the path, and strengthening your spirit. What once felt like delay was divine design. What once felt like loss was preparation for something greater. You are standing on the threshold of a divine unfolding. The shift is already happening, not someday, but now. The inner signals of change, the quiet stirrings in your heart, are not imagination, they are confirmation. The unseen is moving, the promise is maturing, and the miracle is forming. Keep believing, keep feeling, keep standing in faith. You don't have to see it to know it's done. Just rest in the certainty that God always finishes what he starts. The weariness you felt is turning into strength, the delay into divine timing, and the waiting into fulfillment. The same power that began this good work within you is bringing it to completion. Your breakthrough is not coming, it's already on its way to becoming visible. So lift your head, quiet your heart, and prepare to receive. What God is about to do in your life will be bigger, better, and more beautiful than you could ever imagine. The unseen has already shifted, and soon your world will reflect it. Thank you for watching. May this message awaken your faith, strengthen your spirit, and remind you that the promise still stands and your moment is near. Keep believing, because your miracle is already in motion. There comes a moment in every life when the outer world appears silent, unmoved, and unchanged. The mind may question, the senses may doubt, and reason may whisper that nothing is happening. Yet it is precisely in this stillness that the greatest movement has already taken place. Divine favor does not arrive with noise. It does not announce itself with thunder or spectacle. It begins quietly, invisibly, within. The moment you accept a new state of being, the moment you internally agree that the answer is already yours, the movement is complete. God has moved, not in the sky, not in circumstances, but in you. Understand this truth. You do not wait for favor, you enter it. Favor is not something granted from outside. It is a state assumed within consciousness. When you occupy the feeling of being chosen, supported, and guided, life has no option but to mirror that assumption. What you consent to as true becomes law in your world. Many believe that effort persuades the divine. They struggle, plead, repeat words without feeling, hoping to be noticed. But divine law responds not to begging, but to being. When you live from the conviction that the door is already open, you stop knocking. And the moment you stop knocking, you realize you were never locked out. Divine favor is not earned through exhaustion. It flows naturally to the one who rests in the end. Rest is not inactivity, it is certainty. It is the deep inner knowing that the arrangement has been made, that unseen hands have already aligned people, places, and events in your favor. You may ask, if God has moved, why do I see no change? Because movement in consciousness always precedes movement in form. The seed is planted long before the harvest appears. No one digs up the soil every day to check if the seed is growing. They trust the process. In the same way, your assumption is working even when the surface looks unchanged. The moment you accept yourself as favored, supported, and guided, your reactions soften. Fear loosens its grip, urgency fades, and in that calm confidence, life begins to rearrange itself. Opportunities appear naturally, conversations shift unexpectedly, doors open without force. This is not coincidence, it is alignment. Do not seek signs to convince you. Signs follow belief, they do not create it. The outer world is a mirror, not a leader. When you change your inner position, the reflection must change. It cannot do otherwise. So today, choose to stand in the fulfilled state. Walk as one who knows the answer is already given. Speak inwardly from gratitude rather than need. Feel the relief of completion rather than the tension of waiting. Say within yourself, it is done, not because you see it, but because you know it. Divine favor is not coming. It has already been released. God has already moved. And now the world is simply catching up to what you have accepted as true. Rest in that knowing, remain faithful to the unseen, and watch as the invisible becomes undeniable. Nothing in your outer world ever changes until something first changes within you. What you experience as life is not happening to you, it is happening from you. Every condition, every circumstance, every repeated pattern began as an inner agreement, an unseen decision about what is true, possible, or inevitable. Long before events rearrange themselves, consciousness has already shifted. The world you see is a delayed reflection of what you've accepted internally. This is why effort applied only on the surface often feels exhausting and ineffective. You can change locations, relationships, routines, and strategies, yet if the inner state remains the same outcomes will reappear in new forms. Life is faithful, not random. It mirrors the state you consistently occupy. Inner movement is subtle. It does not require dramatic rituals or visible action. It happens the moment you stop identifying with lack and quietly assume fulfillment. The instant you accept a new inner position, I am supported, I am chosen, I am guided, a new sequence of events is set in motion. This movement is real even if the senses cannot yet confirm it. Consciousness moves first, matter follows. Most people wait for permission from the outer world before they change how they feel inside. They wait for proof, improvement, or validation. But this reverses the order of creation. The inner world is not a reaction, it is the cause. When you wait for circumstances to change before you change your awareness, you remain trapped in the same loop. True transformation begins when you dare to feel differently without external evidence. A shift in consciousness is not positive thinking, it is identification. It is the decision to live from the end rather than toward it. When you internally experience the relief, gratitude, and confidence of the wish fulfilled, you are no longer striving, you are expressing. and expression always precedes manifestation. This inner movement does not demand constant effort. Once the assumption is accepted, it works naturally like a law. You do not force the sun to rise or the seed to grow. You simply allow the process by not interfering with doubt, fear, or impatience. Doubt is not a failure, it is only a sign of divided attention. Gently return to the state you have chosen, and the movement continues. As consciousness shifts, reactions change. What once triggered fear now feels neutral. What once felt impossible now feels normal. These are not small signs, they are evidence that the inner rearrangement is complete. When your inner responses change, the outer world must reorganize itself to match the new state. This is why lasting change never comes from struggle. It comes from alignment. When you move inwardly into agreement with what you desire to experience, life has no resistance to offer. The path opens not because you forced it, but because you became the person for whom it is natural. Every outer transformation, success, peace, love, abundance, was first an inner movement. Change the inner position, and the outer world follows with precision. There is no exception to this law. Faith is not a struggle to believe something that feels distant or uncertain. True faith is quiet, natural, and inwardly assumed. It is the acceptance of an idea so completely that it no longer feels like hope, but like fact. The moment something is assumed with feeling, it begins to operate as reality, even before it becomes visible. An assumption is more powerful than effort. You do not assume by repeating words mechanically or convincing the mind through force. You assume by feeling from the position of already having. When the body relaxes, when the heart settles, and when the inner dialogue changes from wanting to knowing, the assumption is made. From that moment on, life rearranges itself to confirm what has been inwardly accepted. Most people think faith means waiting faithfully, enduring uncertainty, or believing despite fear. But faith, in its pure form, is certainty without evidence. It is the inner consent that says, "This is mine, not someday, but now." When you feel the naturalness of fulfillment, you are no longer asking for permission. You are living from decision. The reason assumptions harden into fact is because consciousness does not argue. It reflects. Whatever you repeatedly feel as true becomes the pattern through which experiences flow. If you assume struggle, life produces situations that justify struggle. If you assume ease, support appears without strain. The world does not test your assumptions, it simply confirms them. Feeling is the key that seals the assumption. Thought alone is weak, but thought combined with feeling is creative. A thought felt deeply enough becomes a state, and a state is an identity. Once something becomes part of who you are, it expresses itself effortlessly. You do not need to monitor it constantly. It works in the background, shaping outcomes, influencing decisions, and attracting corresponding conditions. Faith as assumption removes urgency. When something is assumed, there is no desperation. You do not chase what you already possess. This calmness is not passivity, it is authority. It is the inner posture of one who knows the arrangement is complete, and that posture speaks louder than any action. Doubt may still arise, but doubt does not undo an assumption unless you agree with it. Passing thoughts have no power unless they are felt and accepted. You can observe doubt without identifying with it. The assumption remains dominant when you return again and again to the feeling of certainty. Time delay does not mean failure. When you assume a state, you are not controlling the path, only the outcome. The how and when are not your responsibility. Life organizes itself through natural channels, often in ways the mind could not predict. Trust deepens when you realize that unseen movement is still movement. The outer world must conform. It has no choice. What you feel to be true consistently becomes visible. The fact appears not as something miraculous, but as something inevitable. And when it arrives, it often feels familiar, because you have already lived in it inwardly. Faith, then, is not blind belief. It is the courage to assume fulfillment before proof. And once assumed with feeling, it cannot remain invisible. It must harden into fact. What is called delay is often misunderstood. The human mind measures movement by what the senses can immediately detect, but creation does not operate on visible speed. Movement begins in silence, beyond observation, beyond clocks and calendars. Just because you cannot see progress does not mean progress is not happening. What appears delayed is not absent, it is already arranged. The moment an inner decision is made, the outcome is secured. From that instant, life begins assembling the necessary components, people, circumstances, timing, and pathways, into a coherent sequence. This orchestration is complex and precise, and much of it unfolds outside conscious awareness. Expecting immediate evidence is like expecting a seed to break the soil the moment it is planted. The work begins long before the emergence. Divine timing is not punishment, testing, or withholding. It is alignment. Everything must meet at the point where it can naturally express itself without force. If something arrived before the inner state was stable, it would not last. What feels like waiting is often preparation, not to change the desire, but to stabilize the consciousness that holds it. Impatience arises when attention is fixed on time rather than fulfillment. When the mind constantly checks the outer world for confirmation, it signals doubt, not faith. Yet even doubt does not stop the arrangement unless it becomes the dominant state. The deeper work continues regardless of temporary uncertainty. Life does not pause because you question, it only reflects what you finally accept as true. There are countless unseen adjustments taking place at once. Conversations you are not part of, decisions made by others, chance encounters, delays that protect you, redirections that refine the path. What seems like stagnation may actually be precision at work. The outcome is not late, it is exact. When you trust the arrangement, resistance dissolves. Trust is not blind optimism, it is understanding the law of sequence. Cause precedes effect, inner acceptance precedes outer expression. Once the cause is set, the effect is inevitable. Time is simply the interval required for reorganization to occur without contradiction. Many give up moments before alignment completes, mistaking silence for denial. Yet silence is often the sign that the structure is nearly finished. The loudest transformations happen quietly. The deeper the change, the less dramatic it appears, while forming, living from this understanding shifts your emotional posture. Anxiety softens into patience. Urgency transforms into calm expectation. You stop forcing outcomes and start cooperating with them. This cooperation allows events to unfold smoothly rather than through struggle. When the manifestation appears, it rarely feels rushed or chaotic. It arrives naturally, as though it could not have happened any other way. Looking back, the delays make sense. Each pause, each detour, each moment of uncertainty contributed to the perfect alignment. Divine timing is not something you wait for, it is something already in motion. The arrangement exists the moment you accept the end. What remains is the unfolding, and unfolding by its nature is invisible until it is complete. Everything you experience flows from where your awareness rests. Awareness is not passive observation, it is active selection. What you give your attention to, what you mentally agree with, and what you emotionally dwell in becomes the lens through which life organizes itself. Awareness is the creative power, quietly shaping reality from the inside out. Most people believe power exists outside of them, in circumstances, other people, opportunities, or chance. Yet nothing in the outer world has authority on its own. It only reflects the state of awareness you consistently occupy. When awareness is fixed on lack, life produces reasons to feel lacking. When awareness settles into fulfillment, life responds by providing the evidence. Acceptance is the turning point. You do not create by effort, you create by agreement. The moment you accept fulfillment as your inner position, the struggle ends. Acceptance is not pretending or forcing belief. It is the inner yes that feels calm, settled, and natural. When fulfillment feels normal rather than distant, the state is entered. This shift does not require you to control thoughts all day. Awareness is not about mental tension, it is about identity. You become aware from fulfillment rather than of desire. The inner conversation changes automatically. You stop asking when or how. Instead, you think, feel, and respond as someone for whom the desire is already resolved. Life immediately begins to rearrange itself because awareness is the organizing principle. Every system, psychological, emotional, and experiential, moves to match the dominant state. Opportunities appear without being chased. Insights arise spontaneously. Decisions feel intuitive rather than forced. These are not coincidences. They are adjustments responding to your new position. Resistance dissolves when awareness is aligned. Many obstacles exist only because attention keeps returning to them. When awareness shifts away from struggle and toward completion, those obstacles lose their function. They no longer have a state to support them, so they fall away naturally. This does not mean challenges never appear. It means challenges no longer define you. Awareness determines meaning. When you are aware of yourself as fulfilled, challenges become temporary movements rather than permanent blocks. You navigate them with ease because your identity is not threatened by them. The rearrangement often begins internally. Emotional reactions soften, fear loosens its grip, confidence emerges without effort. These inner changes are the earliest signs that life is already responding. The outer world follows, but always after the internal confirmation is complete. Awareness must be sustained, not strained. You do not check constantly to see if it is working. That implies separation. You simply return gently and consistently to the feeling of already being what you desire. This return strengthens the state until it becomes dominant. The world reflects your awareness so clearly that it feels inevitable. The outcome arrives not as something extraordinary, but as something appropriate. It matches you because you matched it first. Your awareness is the power. When you accept fulfillment, you give life a clear instruction, and life, always obedient to consciousness, rearranges itself accordingly. The greatest misunderstanding about change is the belief that evidence must come first. The senses are treated as judges of truth, and belief is postponed until proof appears. But this reverses the true order of creation. Signs do not lead belief, they follow it. Evidence is not the cause of faith, it is the result of it. The outer world is a mirror, not a source. It reflects what has already been accepted inwardly. When you look to circumstances for permission to believe, you place the effect before the cause. In doing so, you remain trapped in repetition, because the mirror can only show what is already assumed. It cannot introduce something new until belief has changed. Belief is not an intellectual agreement, it is an inner position. It is the quiet knowing that does not argue, justify, or demand reassurance. When belief is present, it feels natural, settled, and complete. There is no tension in true belief because there is no waiting for confirmation. The confirmation is already assumed. Many search for signs as motivation. They want a small improvement, a hint, a coincidence, something to prove that movement has begun. But signs given before belief would have no foundation to remain. Without belief, even positive signs are dismissed, minimized, or feared. The mind either doubts them or clings to them anxiously, both of which return attention to lack. When belief is established first, signs appear effortlessly. They do not need to be chased or interpreted. They emerge naturally as the world adjusts to the new inner state. Conversations shift, opportunities align, circumstances soften. These signs feel normal rather than miraculous because they match what is already accepted within. Looking for signs often signals divided attention. It suggests that belief is conditional, dependent on external validation. Yet the law responds only to what is unconditional. When belief no longer waits, the mirror has new instructions, and the reflection must change. The senses are delayed reporters. They describe what has already been set in motion, not what is currently being decided. By the time something is visible, it has already been agreed upon internally. This is why reacting emotionally to appearances is ineffective. You are responding to yesterday's assumptions. Faith remains steady even when appearances contradict it. This is not denial, it is understanding sequence. You do not argue with the mirror when you change your expression. You simply continue expressing differently until the reflection catches up. The need for signs fades as belief strengthens. Certainty replaces curiosity. Peace replaces urgency. When belief is complete, you no longer scan the environment for reassurance. You move naturally, speak confidently, and decide intuitively. These behaviors are not strategies, they are expressions of identity. Eventually, the signs arrive in undeniable ways, not because you forced them, but because belief gave them permission. They appear at the right time, in the right form, and often through ordinary means. And when they do, they confirm what you already knew. Rest is not the absence of desire, it is the completion of it. When the end is truly accepted, striving dissolves naturally. There is nothing left to force, fix, or figure out. Peace arises not because circumstances have changed, but because the inner work has reached its conclusion. This peace is not manufactured. It is the evidence that the state has been entered. Most people mistake rest for inaction, but rest is an inner posture, not an outer pause. You may still act, plan, and move through life, yet without urgency or tension. Action taken from rest is effortless, guided, and precise. Action taken from lack is heavy and reactive. The difference is not what you do, but where you are doing it from. The moment you stop trying to make something happen, it begins to happen. This is not paradoxical, it is lawful. Striving implies separation. It affirms that what you want is not yet yours. Rest affirms possession, and life responds only to what is affirmed. Peace is the clearest sign that the assumption is complete. When the mind stops arguing with itself, when emotional volatility settles, and when the need for reassurance fades, the end has been accepted. You no longer revisit the desire with desperation. You remember it with calm certainty. Many continue to repeat techniques long after the state has been entered, not realizing that repetition from anxiety undoes the work. Rest knows when to stop. It trusts that what has been impressed will express. Just as the body rests after nourishment, Consciousness rests after acceptance. Rest does not mean you will never think about the desire again. It means that when you do, it carries no charge. There is no longing, no impatience, no sense of distance. The desire feels near, familiar, even ordinary. This ordinariness is powerful. What feels natural manifests naturally. The world often tests this rest, not as punishment, but as reflection. Old conditions may linger temporarily. Delays may appear. Contradictory evidence may surface. These are not signs of failure. They are remnants of a former state. Rest allows them to pass without reaction. Reaction would re-enter the old identity. Non-reaction keeps you anchored in the new one. Rest is trust in sequence. You know that once the end is accepted, the middle takes care of itself. You are not responsible for arranging events, convincing people, or controlling outcomes. Your only responsibility is to remain faithful to the state you have entered. From rest comes clarity. Ideas arise without effort. Decisions feel obvious. You move at the right time instead of rushing. This is inspired action, born not of fear but of alignment. When fulfillment arrives, it rarely shocks you. It feels expected, even overdue. This is the signature of true rest. You recognize the manifestation as something you have already lived with inwardly. Peace is not the reward at the end of the journey. It is the sign that the journey inward is complete. When you rest in the end, the work is done and life moves to prove it. As we bring this message to a close, remember this above all else. Nothing you are seeking is outside of you. Every shift in life begins with a shift in awareness. When you move inwardly, assume with feeling, trust, unseen arrangement, and rest in fulfillment, you activate a law that never fails. Life does not respond to effort, worry, or waiting. It responds to consciousness. What you have accepted as true within is already shaping what will appear without. The silence you may be experiencing is not denial, it is preparation. The peace you feel is not accidental, it is confirmation. Divine favor is not approaching from a distance, it has already been released the moment you agreed with the end. Do not chase signs. Do not question timing. Do not return to struggle. Remain faithful to the state you have chosen. Walk, think, and feel as one who knows the work is complete. Let patience replace urgency. Let trust replace fear, and let peace become your natural home. The outer world will catch up. It always does. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your presence. And thank you for allowing this truth to meet you where you are. Stay rooted in awareness, rest in fulfillment, and watch life unfold in your favor. There is a silent current moving through your life, unseen, yet undeniably real. Everything around you, every circumstance, every person, every challenge is quietly shifting in your favor. You may not see it yet, but the tide is turning, and it is moving toward your victory. The first truth to understand is that your reality begins in your imagination. Whatever you hold in your mind with conviction and feeling begins to shape the world around you. When you assume the feeling of your desire fulfilled, your life bends to reflect that inner certainty. Do not underestimate the power of your mind. It is not merely a tool, it is the forge of your reality. Even when the external world seems stagnant, know this: the invisible shift is already happening. Forces beyond your perception are arranging events and people to bring about what you desire. The universe does not work with hesitation. It moves quietly, methodically, always toward the realization of what your heart has imagined. Trust the process, even when you cannot yet see it. But belief alone is not enough. You must persist in the feeling of your fulfilled desire. Do not let doubts creep in. Do not allow impatience to cloud your vision. Every moment you maintain the inner certainty, you are creating an irresistible momentum that life must reflect. Persistence is the key. The world cannot deny the conviction of a determined heart. Release all resistance. The moment you let go of fear, worry, and frustration, the flow of life moves unhindered toward you. Struggle is unnecessary. It only delays what is already destined for you. Surrender to the natural unfolding and allow miracles to happen with ease. Imagination is your creative power. Live in the end of your desire. See it, feel it, embrace it, as though it is already yours. By immersing yourself in this inner reality, you invite the physical world to follow. Every reality begins as a mental picture. Every success begins as an imagined certainty. Trust the timing of life. What seems delayed is not denial, it is preparation. Everything is being orchestrated with perfect precision to bring your desires in the most favorable way. There is divine timing at work, and it always works in your favor. So hold fast. Do not give up. Every unseen shift, every hidden movement, every quiet alignment is leading you toward your breakthrough. Everything is shifting in your favor. Trust it, believe it, feel it, and watch the impossible become inevitable. Your reality begins not in the world around you, but in the silent creative depths of your imagination. Everything you see, experience, and encounter in your life is a reflection of the beliefs you hold within. The moment you realize that your outer world is a mirror of your inner state, you step into a place of power, for the world does not create you. You create the world by the assumptions you persist in. This is the secret that many overlook. Life does not respond to your complaints, your fears, or even your wishes without feeling. It responds to the living, vibrant conviction that you hold in your mind and heart. When you assume the feeling of your desire fulfilled, when you live as though what you seek has already been accomplished, life itself begins to rearrange. People, circumstances, and opportunities align in ways that seem miraculous. Yet they are the natural consequence of your inner state. It is not enough to merely hope or wish for change. Hope is weak, fleeting, and uncertain, and the outer world senses this uncertainty. Your imagination, however, is powerful and tangible. By imagining vividly, by entering the state where your desire is already realized, you send a signal to the universe that your fulfillment is inevitable. It is not a distant possibility, it is a present reality, experienced first in the inner world before manifesting in the physical. When you carry this assumption consistently, it impresses itself upon your consciousness so deeply that your actions, decisions, and reactions begin to align with that reality. You start to notice opportunities that were invisible before. You begin to meet people who serve as instruments of your vision. Life unfolds in a way that confirms your inner assumption. Your imagination is the divine tool through which you mold your reality. To exercise this power, you must enter the end state of your desire. Feel it in your body, in your heart, and in your mind. See yourself living the life you want, not someday, but now. Sense the emotions of fulfillment, gratitude, and joy as if they are already yours. This feeling is the signal that transforms mere thought into creation. The universe moves to match the frequency of your inner state. Resistance, doubt, and negativity will try to interrupt this process. but persistence and faith are your allies. The more you dwell in the assumption of your fulfilled desire, the stronger and more undeniable the impression becomes. Understand that the outer world is never separate from you. Every event, every encounter, every circumstance is a reflection of what you carry inside. If your imagination is strong, clear, and unwavering, the world will reflect that strength back to you. If your inner state is uncertain or fearful, life will mirror that uncertainty. This is the essence of creation. You do not chase reality, you embody it. By assuming the feeling of your desire fulfilled, you take the first step in reshaping everything around you. Life reorganizes itself in response, and what once seemed impossible becomes not only possible, but inevitable. Even when everything around you appears still, when life seems to stall and circumstances seem unmoving, an invisible current is flowing beneath the surface, quietly rearranging reality in your favor. Most people judge the world by what they see with their eyes, forgetting that the visible world is always preceded by the invisible. What appears as delay or stagnation is not failure. It is the hidden preparation for your desire to manifest. The universe is always working, always moving, always aligning events, opportunities, and people, even when you cannot yet perceive it. This unseen shift is subtle, delicate, and profound, and it is entirely in your favor. The moment you understand that the physical world is a reflection of the invisible, you will no longer be shaken by what seems like inaction. The unseen forces are already at work. They move in perfect harmony with your inner assumption, rearranging circumstances in ways that often appear miraculous. These forces do not operate randomly. They respond to the frequency of your consciousness. Every belief, every feeling, every thought you hold is a vibration that communicates to the universe what reality you wish to inhabit. When you persist in the assumption of your desire fulfilled, unseen arrangements begin to take shape. Doors open before you, connections are made, and opportunities present themselves naturally. You may not see the mechanism, and you may not feel the shift immediately, but it is happening. Trust in the quiet, because what is invisible is always more powerful than what is visible. It is essential to understand that the shift always precedes the manifestation. Life does not simply hand you your desires in a moment of need. It first aligns the circumstances, the people, and the events to make that desire inevitable. Just as a seed must first develop roots beneath the soil before it sprouts into the sunlight, your dream must first take form in the invisible realm before it appears in the world of matter. To panic, to doubt, or to rush the process is to resist the very natural order that is working for you. Patience is not passivity, it is trust in the creative law that governs reality. The more you can internalize this truth, the less power the outer world has to disturb your inner peace. Circumstances are never final, they are temporary indicators that the unseen is still aligning. Even when setbacks appear, they are often part of a larger orchestration, positioning you for the most favorable outcome. You are not witnessing delay, you are witnessing preparation. Your task is not to force results, but to remain steadfast in the inner vision, to continue assuming the state of fulfillment, and to carry the feeling of the end as your present reality. Know that this invisible shift is relentless, precise, and inevitable. Your desire is already on its way to you. The universe is not late. It is perfectly timed. The unseen forces are constantly at work, molding the circumstances so that when the manifestation appears, it does so effortlessly and completely. Your only requirement is to trust, to persist, and to hold unwavering faith in the unseen process. What is invisible now will soon be visible, and everything that is shifting in your favor will emerge as proof of the power of belief, patience, and alignment with the creative law. The power of your desire is not measured by how loudly you declare it or by the force with which you wish for it. It is measured by the persistence of the feeling you carry within. It is easy to become distracted by appearances, by circumstances that seem to contradict your dreams, or by voices, both external and internal, that whisper doubt. Yet true manifestation does not depend on the external world. It depends entirely on your inner state. The moment you persist in the feeling of your desire fulfilled, living as though it is already yours, you set into motion an inevitability that the outer world cannot resist. This is the secret that transforms dreams into reality. The continuity of feeling, the unwavering assumption that your desire exists now. To persist in feeling means to occupy your inner world with the end result, without hesitation, without interruption, and without compromise. Do not allow fleeting doubts or momentary disappointments to break the continuity of your assumption. Life will constantly challenge you. It will present obstacles, delays, and contradictions. These are not signs that your desire is failing. They are tests of your persistence. Every time you return to the feeling of your fulfilled desire, every time you re-enter the state of its already having been accomplished, you reinforce the vibration that must eventually be reflected in your external world. Continuity is the bridge between imagination and reality, between thought and matter. And matter, the outer world cannot reflect what your inner state does not first hold. People, circumstances, and events are drawn to the frequency you maintain. When your inner state is consistent, when your feeling of fulfillment is steady and unwavering, life aligns to mirror it. The more you persist in feeling, the more inevitable your manifestation becomes. Even when the world appears contrary, persistence creates a gravitational pull that cannot be denied. What seems like opposition is merely the outer world waiting to catch up with the state of consciousness you have assumed. Persistence is also an act of faith. It is faith not in what you see, but in what you imagine. It is the belief that what you have assumed as true in your inner world will inevitably appear in your outer world. This faith is not passive. It is active, vibrant, and alive. Every thought, every feeling, every moment spent in the inner reality of fulfillment strengthens the invisible threads that bind your desire to its manifestation. Impatience, worry, or distraction weakens these threads, while steadfast feeling reinforces them until the external world must conform. Understand that persistence is not measured in days or months. It is measured in consistency of state. It is the unbroken commitment to live in the end, to feel the reality of your desire now, to ignore appearances, and to hold unwavering conviction. When you persist, life cannot help but yield. The outer world has no choice but to reflect the state you have assumed. Your desire moves from imagination to inevitability, from thought to experience, from invisible assumption to visible manifestation. Continuity of feeling is the law through which the impossible becomes inevitable, and the dreams you hold most dear become your living reality. Resistance is the invisible barrier that prevents your desires from manifesting. It is the tension created by doubt, fear, and impatience, the inner struggle against the natural flow of life. When you wrestle with circumstances, when you fight against what seems to be, you only strengthen the very obstacle you wish to overcome. The universe responds not to struggle, but to the state of mind you maintain. Every moment you resist, every thought of worry or fear acts like a block, slowing the movement of your desire from imagination into reality. It is not the world that delays your fulfillment. It is your resistance that interrupts the seamless flow of life that is already working in your favor. To release resistance is to surrender, to trust, and to allow the natural unfolding of events to carry you toward your desire. Surrender does not mean inaction or passivity. It means alignment. It means maintaining your inner assumption of the fulfilled desire while letting go of struggle. When you no longer oppose the present moment, when you cease to fret over how or when your desire will manifest, you create space for the invisible currents of life to bring your vision into form. This is the paradox of creation. By releasing struggle, you gain control. By surrendering, you command the manifestation of your desire. Fear is one of the most common forms of resistance. It whispers that what you want is impossible, that you are not worthy, or that circumstances are against you. Doubt, likewise, undermines your inner conviction, tempting you to look to the outer world for proof. Impatience rushes you to act before the invisible forces are fully aligned. All of these are signs that you are operating from a place of resistance rather than trust. The solution is simple but profound. Return continually to the inner state of peace, assurance, and certainty. Let the feeling of your desire fulfilled dominate your consciousness. Live as if the end has already come, and allow life to orchestrate the details. Understand that the universe is always working, always arranging, always moving to fulfill your desire. The unseen is precise and the natural order is perfect. When you resist, you clash with this order. When you surrender, you align with it. This alignment is effortless. It requires no struggle, no frantic effort, no desperate attempts to control outcomes. All that is required is faith, patience, and the willingness to allow life to bring your desire in its own perfect way. Every delay, every obstacle, every unexpected turn is simply life preparing the optimal conditions for your fulfillment. Only a state of unconditional fulfillment. By releasing resistance, you move from tension to flow, from fear to faith, from struggle to effortless creation. You free yourself to inhabit the reality you have imagined. You understand that the outer world cannot resist the conviction of your inner state. As you surrender, the doors that seemed closed begin to open. The pathways that seemed blocked clear, and the invisible forces align with precision, bringing your desire into manifestation. Everything is already shifting in your favor, and resistance is the only thing that could prevent you from seeing it. Let go, trust the process, and know that life is unfolding exactly as it should, carrying you to the reality your heart has imagined. Every new reality begins in the mind. The world you see around you is not the starting point. It is the reflection of what has already been conceived in consciousness. Imagination is not a mere tool for idle dreaming. It is the creative force, the divine instrument through which life itself is shaped. Whatever you wish to experience, whatever success, joy, or fulfillment you desire, first exists as a mental picture within you. Before a tree grows, before a building is constructed, before any achievement is realized. It begins as a vision, a clear inner representation that precedes all physical manifestation. To ignore the power of imagination is to ignore the very mechanism through which life responds to consciousness. To wield this creative force effectively, you must live in the end. This means inhabiting the state of your desire fulfilled, imagining the result with vivid detail, and most importantly, with deep emotion. Feel the joy, the satisfaction, the relief, the excitement, the gratitude of having what you seek. Emotions are the bridge between imagination and reality. They give life to the mental picture and impress it upon the fabric of existence. The universe does not distinguish between imagination and reality. It responds to the feeling and conviction behind the inner picture. The more real it feels to you, the sooner it becomes inevitable in the physical world. Living in the end is not simply visualizing the outcome, it is embodying it. See yourself walking through the day as if your desire has already been fulfilled. Hear the sounds, notice the surroundings, feel the sensations of your new reality. The mind and body must align with the imagined state. This alignment signals to life that your fulfillment is not hypothetical but actual. The more consistently you enter this state, the more the outer world is compelled to mirror it. You are as the sea is calm and mostly clear, you are as the sea is calm and mostly clear. Opportunities, people, and circumstances begin to appear in perfect harmony with the inner reality you hold. What once seemed distant or impossible now becomes natural and inevitable. The creative force of imagination is also timeless. Past failures, current circumstances, or apparent impossibilities have no power over it. When you imagine with conviction, the mental picture exists beyond the constraints of time, calling the future into existence before it appears physically. This is the essence of manifestation. The future is already here in consciousness, and your imagination simply allows it to take form in the material world. By repeatedly dwelling in the end, by reinforcing the mental picture with faith and feeling, you set in motion an invisible current that life must honor. Do not underestimate the simplicity and power of this process. The secret of all creation is imagination. Whatever you vividly assume and persist in feeling as real, life is compelled to bring into existence. Every great achievement, every success story, every transformation in history began with this invisible act of mental creation. By embracing your imagination as the creative force, by living in the end, and by infusing your vision with deep emotion, you become the architect of your own reality. The life you desire is not waiting for permission, it is waiting for your inner assumption to claim it as already yours. Faith in divine timing is the understanding that the universe operates with perfect precision. Even when life appears to move slowly or obstacles seem to delay your desires. What seems like a pause, a setback, or a disappointment is never truly a denial of your wish. It is the meticulous preparation of circumstances, people, and opportunities to ensure that your manifestation arrives in the most favorable way. Life is orchestrated with an intelligence far beyond what the conscious mind can perceive. Every moment, every event, and every interaction is part of a grand design, aligning invisibly to bring your desire to fruition. To have faith in divine timing is to trust that nothing is wasted, nothing is random, and nothing is absent from the unfolding of your life. Delays are often misunderstood as failure, but they are in reality the proof of the universe's perfect planning. If you push too hard, act prematurely, or try to force results, you may disrupt the natural order that is working in your favor. The outer world cannot create what the inner world has not yet fully prepared. And the timing of life ensures that everything falls into place with maximum impact. Faith in divine timing is the recognition that what you desire is already yours in the unseen realm, and that the universe is simply aligning the perfect circumstances to bring it into your physical experience. Patience, therefore, is not passive waiting. It is active trust in the creative law that governs reality. To cultivate this faith, you must let go of anxiety and impatience. Doubts arise when you focus on appearances rather than the invisible truth that your desire exists in the inner world and that the external world will inevitably reflect it. Every moment that seems empty or delayed is a moment in which unseen forces are meticulously arranging everything for your good. This faith transforms waiting from a period of frustration into a period of empowerment. You are no longer at the mercy of circumstances. You are in harmony with the intelligent flow of life. You understand that every delay, every twist, every unexpected turn is perfectly timed to maximize the impact of your fulfillment. Now, if that Mishka stampa saki, you are ready. Now, if that Mishka stands over you, cast a stone. Faith in divine timing also teaches you to remain steadfast in your inner state, regardless of external appearances. Life cannot contradict what has already been assumed in consciousness. Your inner certainty, your assumption that your desire is already fulfilled, is the signal that guides the unseen forces of the universe. The outer world may lag, but it is only catching up with the state you have already established within. The more unwavering your faith, the swifter and smoother the manifestation. This is why patience and persistence are inseparable from the principle of divine timing. Understanding divine timing allows you to move through life with confidence, grace, and peace. You no longer rush, struggle, or despair, because you know that every moment is working for you, arranging the circumstances in the exact way necessary to bring your desire to life. When you trust this timing, you align yourself with the invisible current of creation. You recognize that your desire is already fulfilled in the unseen, and all that remains is for the outer world to reflect it. Faith in divine timing transforms waiting into assurance, doubt into trust, and desire into inevitable reality, ensuring that everything unfolds perfectly in your favor. As we reflect on the truths we have explored today, remember this: everything is already shifting in your favor. Your inner belief shapes the world around you. The unseen forces are quietly rearranging circumstances, and persistence in feeling ensures that what you desire becomes inevitable. By releasing resistance, trusting the process, living in the end through your imagination, and having faith in divine timing, you align yourself with the effortless flow of life. The universe is conspiring on your behalf, orchestrating every detail to bring your dreams into manifestation. Your role is not to struggle or doubt, but to assume, to feel, and to trust, knowing that the reality you envision is already yours. So, do not give up. Stand firm in your vision, persist in your belief, and embrace the invisible currents working tirelessly for your good. Every moment, every event, every encounter is a step closer to the life you have imagined. The shift is happening, the alignment is taking place, and your fulfillment is inevitable. Thank you for opening your heart and mind today, for allowing these words to inspire belief and courage within you. May you move forward with unwavering faith, persistent feeling, and the certainty that life is working for you in ways beyond your imagination. Thank you.